My job is demanding that I slow down my work opportunities with my career just to make my other coworker who's getting ignored a little bit happier, which is seriously putting me in a position that's honestly incredibly upsetting, as I now feel like my career is being stifled and limited by people who are just incredibly salty about me doing well. And now I'm very frustrated, I feel like a jerk, and I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. I'm a 24-year-old female, and recently I started a new job. I won't go into too much detail, but part of my job requires talking to news outlets, the police, government liaisons, and just being present for press conferences. Now, I will say I'm very good at my job, and I genuinely like it. I take every opportunity to network and build my connections, and over the past 6 months alone, that's really paid off well. There was recently a bigger opportunity in London, and anyone who attended would essentially have a massive career jump, especially given its exclusivity. It also helps massively with credibility, and it just opens doors for other workplaces. In our industry, for reference, it's commonplace for news outlets, the police, and government liaisons, and etc. to email team managers about the person sent out. Not everybody does it, but it makes the good reviews have more weight because it means someone went out of the way to praise somebody. Well, my manager used these emails as part of the filtering process for who should attend this London conference. And you know what? I got one of the 2 slots. Meanwhile, another coworker, who I will call John, got the other slot. Well, as you're gonna see, this obviously caused some friction. Apparently, one of the women in the group, who I will call Jane for the sake of the story, she's in her mid-40s and had been passed up on this opportunity by our manager. Now, from what I've been told by my coworkers, Jane has been consistently passed up on meetings, conferences, etc., all because people have been requesting me instead. I knew people had been requesting me, but not that Jane was missing out because of it. Well, John and I have been prepping for this London job, and parts of our normal work have been reallocated by our manager to other people. And this basically meant that Jane was sent to a conference in my place. Well, yesterday, Jane came back and went straight to our manager and human resources, seriously to complain that multiple people asked Jane where I was, and Jane had to explain that she was attending for me. She said it was humiliating and she felt pushed aside anytime someone asked her if I was also attending. And sure, I feel bad about this, but I can't control how people act. What made it worse was that Jane had been tracking all the opportunities that she had missed out on, all because I was requested. And just to be clear, I'm not the one sending myself out. That is literally our manager's job. Jane then said that she wants to take my slot for this London job, and Human Resources says that it's up to me. But here's the thing, I don't want to give up my slot. And John can't just give up his, as he's running like a presentation specific to his team. My manager asked why I wanted to go, and I said I wanted to network and have people in my back pocket, and that having this exclusive meeting on my roster is a big deal. This will really open up doors in the future. I have about 3 weeks to mull this over before the deadline, and I know that Jane hates me right now. I feel really bad that she's missing out on work because of me, but I can't really do anything about it without ruining my own career by constantly turning down invites and opportunities. Jane is obviously very mad at me, and certain coworkers have also suggested that I just give up my slot, given how apparently I'll still get so many opportunities because I'm popular. So am I the jerk here for not wanting to give this up? Because I really don't know what to do right now. Okay, you're not the jerk, and you should not give up this slot. In fact, you should double down and be like, oh, I'm definitely going, and everybody's gonna know about it. First off, Human Resources are just a bunch of cowards, because this sounds like, oh man, we really don't want to deal with Jane again. She's probably one of those coworkers who's constantly complaining about not getting opportunities, which I guarantee you is her own fault. She's probably insufferable to work with, and this is just the results of that. So for Human Resources to be like, I don't know, it's the original poster's problem, let them figure it out. That is them passing the buck and kicking the can down the road in a way that is honestly obnoxious. Like, holy crap, I would be pissed off about that. But also, dude, these people are out of their minds if they're like, oh, just give up this opportunity. You're so popular, you're gonna get stuff anyways. Like, you don't know that. Holy crap. If this London gig is really that much of like a career-defining opportunity, then you better make sure nothing gets in the way. Seriously, I can see these people trying to sabotage it just to be like, oh, Jane deserves this opportunity. She deserves to be there more than you do. But guess what? Nobody deserves anything in life. Like, that is crazy. You know who deserves it? Probably the person that's being requested to go. Probably the person that's requested pretty much anytime you're not there. And that's the original poster. They don't want Jane there. They want you. Just because you're good at your job doesn't mean you should have to slow down to make some old hag happy. This is like asking Michael Phelps, please stop winning gold medals. You're making the people in second place upset. Like, screw these people. Let them be mad. Just because you're good at your job doesn't mean you should have to slow down. That is honestly the dumbest thing anyone could ask of you. And I hope you recognize that. I hope you see that, yeah, you're in a really good spot. You've got a very promising career in front of you, and you should absolutely definitely lean into this as hard as you can. So no, you're not the jerk, but I think you would be a fool if you don't lean into this and run for this opportunity, because these people are morons for trying to stifle your career. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be trying to find an exit plan to go to literally any other organization for this, because hopefully you can find a place that will cultivate talent instead of like trying to hide it just to make some idiot who's probably been there way too long a little bit happier. If you like Am I the Jerk, and I think you do, first off, you need to subscribe. Like, you're missing out. Like, seriously, we're putting out videos all the time, and we're always trying to find stories that are interesting and funny and dramatic. Like, that's what makes me feel alive when I make these videos. So please subscribe, join the community, join the adventure of navigating some of the weirdest experiences you're ever gonna find on the internet. But if you're looking for like that full course dinner meal of like the Michelin style restaurant, where it's like, okay, that was first dinner, but I need second dinner, then please look no further than Am I the Genius. You're gonna love them. They're that fresh cup of orange juice in the morning that's like the most refreshing thing you've ever had in your life, because you spent all night snoring and it's like, oh my gosh, my throat's dry. Please give me something good. It's nutritious, it's delicious, it quenches your thirst. That right there is the feeling you're gonna have with Am I the Genius. So please give them a subscribe as well. Now, if you yourself are like, dude, I want to get in the action, I want to submit my own stories, I want to share my experiences with the world, then baby, I got you covered. Listen, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit to submit your own stories. That's like the central hub on the internet of where this community really comes to life, and honestly, you're gonna love it. Speaking of community, I want to give a big shout out to someone in our community by the name of Cat Lover. They've asked for 3 days in a row right now how my day's going. And first off, I'm so sorry that you had to wait 3 days to hear from me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It wasn't on purpose, dude. Please forgive me. There are a lot of comments. There's quite a few people to navigate. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm trying to give equal attention to all of the children, okay? Please forgive me. This is like a weird custody battle that I never expected, and it's just that things are weird, so I'm sorry. But also, my day's going great. I'm doing good. This afternoon, I thought to myself, I'm not making food. You can't make me. So I literally went up to McDonald's and I got a milkshake and like some French fries, and it was delicious. Was it healthy? Absolutely not. But it was good, and it made me feel alive. And sometimes in life, that's like the best you're gonna get. So just don't even worry about it. So that's how my day's going, Cat Lover. How's your day going? But on that note, let's get back to the video and on to the next story. My friend from early middle school is now making my life in college a living nightmare, as he's trying to control every aspect of my life and has even made it hard for me to find a place to live, as he's constantly telling my future roommates that I would be a nightmare to live with. So I decided to get some very petty revenge, but also much needed revenge, as I essentially destroyed this guy's living situation in a way that he could not avoid, which in retrospect felt amazing because this guy was being a weirdo and he absolutely deserved this. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a while back, but it recently came up and someone says that I should post it here. So guess what? That's exactly what I'm gonna do. Now let's get started with a brief background. I had a friend who I will call Patrick from middle school all the way until like college. And honestly, Patrick was pretty cool for the most part until we got to college. He did not like the boyfriend I had at the time, which to be fair, he was completely right about. And during that time in my life, I was young and stupid, and I needed to learn things for myself in that regard. But when we got to college, he got weirdly controlling, like telling me that I needed to do like certain things, almost as if he was making demands. And then he would get really mad at me if I didn't do what he wanted me to do. Examples include me not dumping the boyfriend, continuing with the degree I was enrolled in to pursue, who I should hang out with and what hobbies I should have, etc. This all eventually came to a head when I decided to move off campus. I was living in the dorms, but it was just not a good fit for me for so many reasons. I'm the kind of person that really needs their own space and is so neurotic, they just can't really share a bathroom with more than like a few people. When I first stated I was going to be moving off campus, Patrick obviously had some opinions. And obviously, I also just completely ignored him. I ended up moving in with a couple of really excellent friends, and this arrangement worked really well for about a year. At the end of the year, one friend was dropping out and the other was relocating for work. Our house was not close to campus, so it would be difficult for me to maintain the lease and find other roommates willing to live that far from campus. And so I figured it would be easier for me to find some other group looking for one more person to share the bills with. Now, Patrick was still very upset that I was living off campus for God knows what reason. He really felt that I needed to be on campus. Now, why this was so important to him was beyond me. And even to this day, I still just don't get it. He had also gotten progressively more weird towards me, especially when it came to me not allowing him to dictate my life choices. I started talking to people on campus to locate a group that needed like one more for housing, and there were a couple of groups of like girls that I talked to, and things had gone well. We had even discussed us meeting up for me to see the room in the house that they were looking at. With both of these groups, when it came time to like pinning down an actual date and time, I got completely ghosted. I know I didn't have many friends, but I also had not made any enemies on campus, so I was really confused about this. I ended up finding a roommate that wanted to move off campus, and we actually found a really cute 2-bedroom house. We signed all the paperwork and paid the deposits, and started the process of organizing our move-in. There was still about like a month of summer left, and our lease wasn't going to start until like August, and this will be important later on, trust me. Now, while discussing the details, this roommate, who I'm just going to call Danielle for the sake of the story, made a comment about some warning Patrick had given her regarding being my roommate. It turns out that Patrick was finding out who I was talking to regarding like the roommate situations, and he was essentially painting me out to be some kind of like high drama, crazy, filthy weirdo that would be some kind of like nightmare roommate. And when I heard this, I was livid. Here's the thing though, Patrick was going to be an RA for the upcoming school year. And this time frame, by the way, was the era of LiveJournal. And if you don't know what LiveJournal is, for reference from the narrator here, it's basically exactly as it says. It's a journal that you put online or like a diary. And sometimes if it's left public, people can read your journal. And jumping back into the story, Patrick apparently had a public LiveJournal. The original poster continued, based off of past behavior towards me and his desire to play fast and loose with my housing situation, I thought that certainly he must be okay with me returning the favor. I then sent the head of residential life a link to Pat's LiveJournal. And to put it bluntly, Patrick's LiveJournal detailed how he intended to sell alcohol and other like really bad substances, literally to the students he was supposed to be overseeing as an RA. And so Patrick, as a result of all this, lost his ability to be an RA because of his LiveJournal. And this happened a month before school started. So he literally had a month to find a solution for his living arrangements. He was allowed to remain in the dorms, but he was not allowed to be in a position of authority at all. And you know what? While he suspected it was me, he could not prove it. In fact, I had used an email I made for the sole purpose of sending it to the head of the residential life. And again, his LiveJournal was public, like anybody could have seen this. In fact, Patrick had made enemies on campus because he had turned out to be kind of a jerk to more than just me. He did confront me on it, and I remember telling him something along the lines of, well, I'm willing to treat people exactly how they treat me. And then I flipped the script on him, and I asked him if he had done anything to me that would make me feel that this would be like appropriate treatment for him to receive from me. Well, after that, he dropped it, either because he knew that I knew, or maybe because he genuinely thought I didn't know, and he just didn't want to admit what he was doing to my face. But either way, I got my revenge in a very fantastic way because Patrick deserved this, and honestly, the way he treated me was just incredibly frustrating. Okay, holy crap, can we all disagree that LiveJournal is stupid? Why on earth would you put these kind of plans on a LiveJournal? Like, I understand people putting stupid stuff on social media, but to literally craft out like, oh, I'm gonna sell stuff to these students. You know, the same students who you're gonna have like authority over, and like they're gonna be looking to you for answers and help. And chances are these were probably freshmen of some kind. Like, that's insane. What an absolute piece of crap. Like, I think you did a bigger favor for the school than anything else. Because just imagine this guy having like some kind of like leadership over a group of freshmen in a dorm room. Can you imagine the life-ruining consequences that could come about because of this guy being involved in any of this? Like, holy crap, dude, they dodged a train with this guy. And that's not even discussing the fact that this guy clearly had a crush on you. He obviously liked you a lot, and the fact that you weren't paying attention to him and dating him probably made him lose his mind. That's why he tried to sabotage your whole life. Like, why else would he lie about you to people that he doesn't know just to be like, oh yeah, you shouldn't live with her? Like, what, was he somehow fantasizing that you would move in with him? Like, come on, what a loser. So yeah, this guy deserved it. What a piece of garbage for treating you like that. And I love the fact that you returned the favor with the whole like living situation in a way that he definitely could not ignore. Am I the jerk for eating what I wanted for my birthday dinner, which then set into motion one of the biggest temper tantrums I've ever seen from my little sister, as this quite literally ruined my birthday dinner in a way that we couldn't recover from. And now after the fact, I'm kind of thinking that this might be my fault, and at this point I don't really know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened about like a year ago now, but my mom still brings it up sometimes to make fun of my little sister for how she acted. And for a bit of context, just so you're aware, at the time I was a couple days away from turning 21, and my little sister was like maybe 14 years old. Sometimes near my birthday, I will go to my mom's house to do stuff with them for my birthday, and usually we go to some type of like attraction or like a theme park or something like that. And maybe I'll stay for like a week or so, just depending on what's going on. I only go during holidays or special occasions because they live 4 hours away. Plus, I don't drive, so I can only really go when my grandpa is free and not really working. Well, this year, my mom had gotten off of work early, and she actually let me pick what was for dinner, and she also got me a cake and a present. Now, Now, I wasn't really feeling anything fancy, so I just told her to stop by Publix and get fried chicken and mac and cheese, since, you know, she already had to be there to pick up the cake. And also, just to step in as the narrator here, in case you don't know what Publix is, it's a major grocery store down in like the southern states of the United States. Okay, back to the story. Now, after I presented my plans to her, I asked my mom if my little sister would be fine with that, and she told me yes, but also it didn't really matter because it was my birthday dinner and it was my choice. And I just thought that was like a fair point, so I let it slide. My mom got home before my sister was, and she told me that when she got home, she was going to have a conversation with her about her grades because apparently my sister was failing a class or two. So my little sister gets home, my mom starts talking to her about her grades, and then tells her that her punishment is no phone in her room at night. Now, mind you, she can have her phone and computer any other time of the day, but not at night because my mom assumed that she was failing because of like a lack of sleep or something like that. But trust me, if this was me and I did this, my mom would have taken my phone away, period. I would not be allowed to even have the computer or probably even watch TV. Well, after my mom tells her this, my sister blows up, and I'm talking like sobbing and screaming at my mother, which is wild because I would have gotten my butt kicked for that at her age. And she was having like a full-blown argument with my mother. They probably argued back and forth for like 30 minutes, all the way up to an hour. And then when my sister went to her room, my mom started making the sides to go with the dinner. When it was done, my sister didn't come out of the room yet, so we just ate without her. When she finally did come out to eat, she looked in the box of fried chicken and started crying again because there were no drumstick pieces left and only breast pieces. And honestly, at this moment, I felt really embarrassed for her. She then looked into the pot of mac and cheese and asked, "What is the green stuff in there?" And I told her, well, I picked broccoli, mac and cheese since it was my birthday dinner. And when I said that, she started crying even more. And in my head in this moment, I'm just thinking to myself, really? You're gonna be crying over fried chicken and mac and cheese? I understand she was already in a bad mood, but I didn't know they were gonna be having that conversation until after I had already like picked what I wanted for dinner. And yes, it was probably my bad for eating the drumstick pieces, but I didn't know she would have that much of a reaction to it, and that she only liked those pieces. I knew she might have a problem with the broccoli, mac and cheese, but my mom said it was fine, and she could just pick out the pieces if anything. Now, I don't really remember what she ended up like making to eat instead, but she didn't eat what we had, and then she just went right back to her room again. When it was time to sing happy birthday and cut the cake, my mom went ahead and called my sister out of her room. My mom then started singing and lighting the candles, and my sister just kind of stood there mouthing the words and not actually singing at all. And again, I understand she was in a bad mood, but honestly, it kind of hurt my feelings. She then said that she didn't want any cake and then just went right back into her room again for the night. And to be honest, this isn't the only time she's ruined a moment with her bad attitude. And for those of you who are gonna say, oh, she's just a teenager, that's just how teenagers are, this is way more than just being a teenager. This, if anything, is from her being spoiled her entire life. My family, especially my mom, treats her so much better and just completely differently than she treated me. Like I said earlier, if I argued with my mom how she did, I would have gotten a much harsher punishment. I mean, to put it plainly, my mom mistreated me. I'm not gonna go into it, but I've had many mental health professionals pretty much say the same thing. I mean, I developed bipolar disorder from my childhood and how she treated me. But even after all of this, I'm still wondering if I should have been more considerate of her feelings. The fact that my mom brings it up to embarrass her sometimes makes me feel a little bit sad, and I remember how hard high school was for me. So honestly, was I the jerk here for picking the food that I wanted to eat for my birthday dinner? Because I honestly kind of feel like I contributed to my sister freaking out, and I just don't know what to make of it. Okay, first off, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You didn't do anything wrong, dude. You're just trying to have a birthday dinner with your family, bro. And then your sister comes in and has all these terrible things happen, and it's like a tornado of just absolute disaster. I will say, I think it was terrible timing for your mom to be like, happy birthday. By the way, I'm gonna punish your sister in front of you and ruin the night. Like, I don't know, maybe wait until I'm gone to do that crap. I don't want to be around for this. I'm here specifically for my birthday. I'm literally trying to enjoy my time with you people. Why would you bring this up now of all times, dude? Holy crap. Holy crap, like your mom spoiled the mood by doing that at that very moment. Why not wait till you're gone or have this conversation elsewhere? Like, that's what I would have done. I'm not gonna be like, okay, time to punish you also on your brother's birthday. Let's have fun. Like, that sucks. That's really annoying and I would hate that. So you're not the jerk. If anything, your mom's the jerk. And yeah, I get it. Your sister's spoiled. I totally understand that. But if you don't put fire near a tree, the tree doesn't catch on fire, dude. And that's kind of what your mom did. She lit a fire under the tree and then was like, wow, I can't believe it's burning. Like, what? Of course it's gonna burn. And it's like, oh great, happy birthday to me. I get to see this family drama suddenly. Isn't this exciting? And I just have to say, and I have to say this as nicely as I can, and I want to really choose my words carefully, I've met families where you can very clearly see when someone is spoiled rotten, and the sister in this story sounds exactly like it, dude. They sound like if everything's not their way, it is like the worst thing ever. And it really is a cycle. It's not just her being like accustomed to getting whatever she wants. It's also the parents caving in at the drop of a hat. Oh, our little daughter's upset. Let's just give her more stuff to make her quiet. Like, I don't know, man. That would be super annoying to deal with and to live through. Holy crap. Because bro, if I complained like that to my mom and I was arguing and screaming at her, oh my God, I would absolutely get punished way worse than that. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking like no phone probably for the rest of the year. Like, come on now. So no, definitively, you are not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. This is not your fault. Your sister was having a weird moment with her mom, and I think your mom bringing this up right on the day of your birthday dinner, in my opinion, is stupid and just completely short-sighted. An entitled Karen loses her mind on me when I correct her kids and tell them not to destroy public property. And I was honestly astonished by this entitled Karen's entitlement, as well as her claiming that I ruined their vacation, all because I told their kids to start behaving. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying cruise ship Karens are for real. After a disappointing buffet dinner of the same food that we also served in the main dining room, we wanted some machine soft serve ice cream. We wandered around to try and find it, and eventually we did. As we approached the machines, there were 3 little kids ages 8 through 11 getting ice cream with no adults present with them. And these kids were not behaving. They were laughing while dumping their ice cream cones on the machine trays, making piles of messes of soft serve and cones, then trying to redo it again and again. There were 4 separate piles of them doing it. The machine was still dripping ice cream from the spout, all because of their bad behavior. So I start to fill my cone with swirl ice cream, and the kids come back before I'm even done. They look ready to cause more stupidity, so I turn to them and I say, stop messing around with the ice cream. I saw what you did. I then go and sit down with my husband. Well, a few seconds later, some guy and his kid walk around from behind me, and the kid slaps his hand super hard on top of the railing, separating the walkway from the table that we sat at. The dad also slapped his hands on a support beam while walking, so I guess like father like son. When they were a few feet further away, I said, how rude, just like Stephanie Tanner from Full House, only loud enough for my husband to hear. Then, a few minutes later, some 40-year-old old lady in a swimsuit and towel walked in a hurry past us, looking around probably for her lost kids. She then turned to me loudly, forcefully asking me if I was the one who criticized her kids for getting ice cream. I said to her, yes, they were messing around, acting like ice cream cones were toys, dumping their ice cream into piles and thinking it was funny. And when they came back around to try and do it again, I told them to stop messing around, as I saw exactly what they did. That is really bad behavior, and they should be supervised if they're gonna disrespect public spaces that other people use. Well, this entitled Karen literally did not care at all about what I said. She said in response, well, my kids are trying to have a fun vacation with their cousin. But I responded by saying, well, then you should probably supervise the little kids. She said to me, well, someday when you have kids, you'll be annoyed and offended when other people try to tell you how to raise your kids. I said to her that I wasn't expecting some kids to be messing around with ice cream like it's a toy, and that it's her job to supervise them and control them, not other people around them. She says to me, we were in the next room over in the buffet waiting for the kids to come back to us with their ice cream cones. Then her husband comes over and he says, yeah, well, there was some kid walking past her and slammed his hands on the railing, but then she was rude and called them out for it. But like seriously, I was rude? Some 10-year-old boy was inches away from slapping me instead of a walking rail. The Karen then said, you shouldn't tell other people's kids how to act or tell parents how to raise their kids. Don't you ever talk to my kids ever again, you jerk. As she leaned over the walkway railing, he grabbed her like a mime with a cane and told her to let it go and walk away. He probably didn't want to see her attack someone at the bare minimum. It was almost like he was done with the argument because he was so used to her acting this way. And this just screams out entitlement, bad habits, constantly not supervising your kids, not enforcing rules of behavior to the kids, not to mention not behaving like adults should, as well as setting a bad example of behavior for their kids. And she also was making excuses with unnecessary details and was literally trying to deflect blame away from themselves. Now, in hindsight, if the lady had been more calm in her approach, I would have said my thoughts to her among the following. I would have said something like, just because the cruise ship curfew for minors is 10 p.m., it doesn't mean you can let your under 12-year-old kids walk away and simply do their own things, especially after dark. And you know what? Just because maybe they let their kids get treats at the neighborhood market or the corner store at home, all unsupervised by the way, it doesn't mean that they should do the same thing in an unfamiliar environment after dark while on vacation, especially on a cruise ship. I mean, kids left unsupervised will let loose and misbehave because they know their parents aren't watching, but forget other adults might remind them of the rules of society. And you know what? Adding in extra details about being on vacation with their cousins, and I, some total stranger, ruined their vacation because I called them out on their misbehavior and misuse of private property, literally proves that they need to supervise their kids better. I also think it's okay for other people to say sternly that you're misbehaving, that this is for everyone and not just you, so please use it right. And you know what? Just because I didn't have kids or babies next to me doesn't mean she can dismiss my thoughts. Because you know what? What I had to say was completely valid. And if that Karen had just been more reasonable, then we could have had a conversation like adults instead of this turning into a shouting match from the entitled Karen. Yeah, that entitled Karen and her kids and the cousin were completely out of line. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean you get to destroy other people's property or even public property for that matter. Like, I totally understand you want to let loose and be able to have some fun, but there is definitely a line, and those kids should definitely have not been on their own. So truly, good for the original poster for standing up and saying something, because those kids were blatantly misbehaving, and that's regardless of whatever that entitled Karen tries to say. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting a party thrown at our home that would be hosted by people that we don't get along with? Because right now, I am completely at my wit's end, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my sister and I had a falling out with my brother and his wife after they would go around telling family members made up awful stories and scenarios about us. There was a big confrontation, and now we don't speak to them. They have always stirred the pot, and my brother still randomly stops by my parents' house, which is where we live, but it's when we aren't home. Now, my mother has always had a soft spot for him and will prioritize his feelings over ours, even though he treats her really badly. He yells at her, curses at her, and has even stolen from her in the past, but she always just says that he's my son and I can't be a jerk like them, and then continues allowing this behavior. Well, yesterday I found out that my brother and sister-in-law are now hosting a party here. I asked my mom why this wasn't brought up beforehand and why she didn't consider how we would feel and what we were supposed to do while they were here. Now, I don't have enough time to write out all the awful things they said about everyone, but more so about my sister. My sister-in-law would call her awful names behind her back and tell people awful and untrue things about her. I know if my sister is in the same room as my sister-in-law, there will be a big confrontation again. I asked my mom why she hadn't considered this since we live here as well. I know ultimately it's their home, but we do pay rent and we were not taken into account. There is close family being invited, so how are we supposed to either stay in our rooms or just not be around or leave until the party ends? It's just insane to me that she's okay with them hosting a party here when they've both said the most vile things about my mother as well, with this especially coming from my sister-in-law. After our confrontation, my sister-in-law said that she would never step foot in our house again and that she wants nothing to do with us. But now that they need something because they don't have a home to host a party in, they come asking my mother knowing that she can't say no to him. I told my mother how this made us feel, and she just made it about herself and how much this affects her. I simply asked why there wasn't an alternative presented, like maybe the party being at a park or someone else's house or something like that. And to top it all off, this is a party for a child who's 8 years old. Now, I know my niece isn't at fault, but I truly feel an alternative solution was needed in this case. I again warned her that if they go through with this, knowing my sister, it will not end well. After I expressed how I felt, she literally stayed quiet and said nothing. And honestly, at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so this morning, my mom asked to speak to me and my sister, and she actually apologized for not taking our feelings into consideration. Apparently, last night, she decided to ask my brother if he had considered what we were supposed to do, since we weren't invited to a party being held at our house. But when she asked him this, he literally said, "That's not my problem." She asked why we couldn't just get together and work things out for the better, to which he went back to his usual behavior and began saying awful things to her. Now, for the record, I've stated before that I'm fine trying to talk things out because I have nothing to hide. That is, if he's willing to change and make things right. Well, he then told my mom that he's not fixing anything. He said to her, "Deep down, they know they're in the wrong, but it upsets me to no end that you don't see that." He then went on to call us unintelligent liars, and then he threatened to cancel the party and basically said that she's horrible and ridiculous and is making his wife cry. My mom said she had a moment of clarity. She told us that he's clearly afraid of talking to the two of us because he'd have to face the truth of all the awful things that they did. I mean, why else does he deflect and yell at me every time I've asked him to try and talk things out. If he thinks he's going to continue treating me like this, then he's wrong. So she says she ended things by telling him the following: all I did was ask you a simple question and you couldn't give me a simple answer. If you want to cancel the party, then that's on you, but don't you try to guilt me into compliance anymore. Now, I know it's not realistic to think that she's going to change overnight, but I am glad she was finally able to stand up for herself and actually take us into consideration for once. I'm sure there is more to come since it's my brother, and as of right now, he said he's canceling because my sister-in-law feels uncomfortable. But with all things considered, I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for making a fuss over this? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, and I think your concerns were completely valid. Your brother and your sister-in-law are absolutely at fault, and the way they've been treating you is completely inappropriate. And the fact that he would talk to his own mother like that is so devastating to hear, and it's very obvious that he was only using her when he felt it was convenient. Like the sister-in-law saying, oh, we're never gonna step foot in your house ever again. But suddenly, when they need something, they're like, oh, psych, can we have a party there instead? And that's just crazy to me because that shows their hand completely. It shows that they don't care and that they're literally only using the mom in this situation so that they can get what they want. So truly, good for you for speaking up and saying your piece, as well as your mom finally seeing the truth, even if just for a second, because your brother's behavior is completely unacceptable, and it's really good that your mom is beginning to see that. Am I the jerk for saying my stepmom can't take back how she treated me as a child? Because right now, she is trying to insert herself in my wedding, and after I refuse to allow her to play any role in that, I'm now being called a jerk, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and have always had a rocky relationship with my stepmother, who we will call Cindy. Cindy is not her real name. She came into my life when I was 13 years old, and pretty much as soon as she and my dad were married, she became very pushy about taking up a parental role. She came to all of my events and stuff, which I tried to appreciate, but she also had this attitude where she would say, it's my house too, and I get to make the rules. And this is right after moving in with dad. And I guess she was the bad cop. She was the one who thought I didn't have enough chores, that my grades weren't good enough, and that I needed screen time limits as well as several other things. And that obviously led to a lot of arguments. I hit the last straw when I turned 17 years old. The lawn needed cutting before Sunday, and my dad said that he'd do it Saturday afternoon. So I made plans to go hang out with my friends for the day. While I was out, Cindy messaged me saying I shouldn't have let dad do the lawn because he'd had a very tiring week and that I would be doing it, which is her usual MO basically. I said no and stayed out with my friends, and when I got home, she was furious and tried to ground me, and it turned into this big stupid argument where I pulled out the classic card by saying that you're not my mom. My dad ended up stepping in, and I wasn't grounded, but he did ask me to try and get along with her. But it didn't matter, because she decided that she was done. She just kind of stopped acknowledging me, and we basically became roommates who hated each other. I wasn't even allowed to eat food that she bought, and it wasn't special stuff, but if the bread ran out, for an example, and she was the only one to replace it, then I couldn't have it. It was all just really tense, and I ended up spending a lot more time at my mom's apartment until I went to college. I've never formally blocked her or gone no contact, but we just haven't spoken since. She never came anytime I met with dad or anything like that. That is, until my fiance and I announced our engagement. The wedding is over a year away, but Cindy sent me a long text message congratulating me and asking for all the details so that she could help plan. She was asking about coming to dress fittings, and if we wanted an engagement party, and if she could make a speech at the wedding. Basically, she was asking about all the mother of the bride stuff and pretending the last 11 years didn't happen. Now, I didn't reply until dad reached out asking why I didn't. And you know what? I was honest with him. I told him straight up that I'm weirded out by this. I'm happy for Cindy to come as a +1, but she's not getting any role at the wedding. And we're actually not even doing a head table just because I don't want to share a table with her or separate her from dad. And because she's not my mom. And the last time I saw her, she was insistent about that. And this has turned into a whole thing. He says she's really hurt and that he's rethinking coming to the wedding because she doesn't want to go. I say that she can't take back what happened, and at the very least, she should have apologized before reaching out like this. Mom and my partner are supportive of me, and I've had messages from several people on dad's side saying that I'm the jerk for punishing Cindy, and it's honestly getting to me. So I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, because I think what you're asking is not that big of a deal. For starters, the people on your dad's side are completely wrong, and they don't know the details of how Cindy treated you growing up. There was clearly animosity, and Cindy had some weird power trip that nobody checked her on. And that's unfortunate unfortunate, and that literally is at your expense. So for her to now come into your life and be like, ooh, I'm gonna help you out with your wedding. Let's go dress shopping and do all this other stuff. It's like, I'm sorry, but who are you again? You've played no role in my upbringing, and you literally made my life miserable as a kid. So in all honesty, I don't blame you for saying, hey, you can come to my wedding, but you're not gonna play a role in my wedding, and that you're only gonna be a +1 to my dad, and that's it. Because I think you have it right. She literally should have apologized for the way she treated you. And in my opinion, that absolutely should have been addressed first, instead of her trying to step in as this perfect stepmom that she most definitely never was. My roommate keeps bringing the kids that she babysits over to our house and has them stay for long hours almost every single day. And I'm now at the point where I really don't like this, and I'm trying to figure out if I would be the jerk if I speak up and say something. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we're a couple and we share a townhouse with another couple. Things have been going great and I had great rapport with my roommates. We signed for a 1-year lease and our lease is up in 2 months. I love this town and I would love to live here, but this situation has driven a wedge between our relationship as roommates. Lately, one of the roommates got a gig as a babysitter and nanny, and things were going great. I was actually happy for her since she had been struggling to find work for quite a while. From her description, the job was supposed to be going to the client's house and babysitting while the parents are going off to work, which involved dropping kids and picking up kids from school, as well as many other duties that a nanny would partake in. Now, we value our privacy, and we are quite an introverted couple, and the couple we live with are as well. The roommate that got the nanny job is very introverted and loves to stay at home, and to my thinking, I believe this is why she keeps bringing the kids over to our home, even though she's supposed to be babysitting at their home. Now, here's the problem. We rented this townhouse with the intention of having just 2 couples, and having the sense of safety and privacy that we wanted, but lately she has been bringing the kids every evening to wait for her mom to pick them up, and we're talking from like 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock p.m. Her husband works from 5 to 7, and it might be inconvenient for her since her husband won't be able to pick her up in time. I even told them I wouldn't mind going to pick her up at 5 or 6 o'clock or whenever she is done with work, and this is all just to give them the hint that I don't want the kids showing up at our house every day. I would come back from work on errands around dinner time or during lunch break and find kids in the common area, sometimes quiet but sometimes rowdy. This happens randomly as well. She would bring the kids randomly without informing us, and from our perspective, we feel uncomfortable with this since this is our home and we want to be able to feel comfortable and feel free to roam around our house. We also have a cat that we have to keep in our room so as to not accidentally scratch the kids. I mean, that is a liability. We feel trapped in our room with the cat when the kids are here, and it just doesn't feel like a home anymore. So I need to know, would I be the jerk to confront them and tell them that we did not sign up for this and that the kids are not allowed to be here? I am a pretty accepting guy, and if the kids come visit us like once a month or so and we are informed, I would have no issue. But this has become a regular thing, and sometimes the kids even sleep over at our house. I also have friends over at our townhouse, but I always tell my roommates in advance, and it's once in a blue moon that they show up. It's such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think you would be the jerk to speak up and say something to them. Like, this clearly is bothering you, and I think you have a really good point. This is something that you did not sign up for, and it doesn't sound like she's supposed to be bringing them to the house anyways. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you have every right to voice your concern, and I think it all just comes down to you speaking up and trying to share exactly how you feel. Am I the jerk for telling my son that if he lives here part-time at our house, then he's not going to get full-time benefits? Because right now, my wife says that I'm pushing him away, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have 2 kids, a son who's 23 years old and a daughter who's 20. They both live at home as the renting prices are way too high. My son works construction making $22 an hour, and my daughter has an unpaid internship with her program. My daughter has some money saved up from working summer jobs and offered to pay rent, but I said no, as it would take longer for her to save up and move out. My daughter does a lot around the house, plus she has a full-time internship until April. She also cooks and cleans, she shovels the driveway and then some. Even when she's tired and after she's had a long day of work, she's still willing to help out. Well, my son, however, has never offered to pay rent, and I wouldn't expect him to, and spends maybe Thursday to Sunday at his girlfriend's place. He doesn't do any chores and comes home and stays in his room the entire night, or goes out with friends or to the gym. For reference, he usually works from 6 in the morning until 2 o'clock p.m. I sat down with my son and explained that he has to do something around the house and that he can't just hide in his room. I get that he's tired, tired. But my daughter was extremely tired last week, but still she did her chores even though I told her to rest. Now, here's what I told my son. If you're not going to live here full time and not contribute to the house, you aren't getting the benefits you usually get. This means that he can park on the street, his shower times are limited to 10 minutes, he has to buy his own groceries, and he can wash his clothes here twice a month. My son yelled something about it being unfair and then left. And my daughter says it is fair as he hogs the shower for 45 minutes every single day. Not to mention that he's always using the bathroom. My wife says we're pushing him away, but I think it's fair, and yes, I would do this if it was my daughter. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you make a very solid point for your son needing to do something around the house, and I think that's something that is completely reasonable for you to ask of him. And I think you've got it right as well. He only lives there like what, part-time, maybe a few days out of the week, while also still not paying rent and having a place over his head. And I think it's awesome that you're willing to let him stay in your house and like figure out his life plan and all that other stuff, or at least save up money so he can have his own place eventually. But I don't think it's okay for him to basically come in and act like a ghost and then just run out of the house without doing anything to help the house. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think what you're asking is completely reasonable, and it sounds like your son needs to come to his senses. My entitled parents named me Anakin Skywalker, and now as a result, I'm getting bullied and made fun of by teachers and students in high school. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I get severely bullied at school, all because of the name my parents gave me. My parents are huge Star Wars fans, and when I was born, they decided to name me Anakin Skywalker. And no, I'm not joking. That is actually my name. My parents' last name isn't Skywalker, my dad's last name is Thompson, and my mom's last name is O'Connor. When they got married, they decided to hyphenate their last name, so their last name is Thompson O'Connor. However, when I was born, they gave me Anakin as my first name and Skywalker as my last name, and I don't even have a middle name. Because of this, I got bullied, and I still get bullied at my school. For it, I joined the school football team, and the players sometimes call me Annie, and they make fun of me, saying, "Use the Force." When I get angry and tell them to stop, the coach will come and he will make fun of me too, saying, "Don't go all dark side with me now." And it's honestly so embarrassing. I have one friend who we will call Emma, that's not her real name, and she just calls me Anakin when we are alone. But when she introduces me to her friends outside of school or her siblings, she just calls me Sky to save me from the embarrassment. I told my parents, but they said the kids are just jealous. Now, I don't really hate my name. I mean, I do like it, and I actually like my last name Skywalker, but I get made fun of by the teachers and students. And I don't even like Star Wars. I find the movies boring. My parents would force me to watch them, and they were just so boring to me. I thought the last three with a female lead were more fun and adventurous, but that's about it. It was kind of weird seeing the character of Anakin on screen, all because we share the same name. But even then, I never really liked the character in the movies. He was annoying and kind of a jerk to everybody except his wife. I did like him in the animated show, but even then, he wasn't my favorite character. Because I don't like Star Wars all that much, and I don't really watch it, the students and teachers make corny Star Wars references that I don't get sometimes, because I'm not into it like that. And some students even call me Vader. I honestly just want to be called Anakin or Skywalker, and just be treated normally without being made fun of, or people making dumb Star Wars jokes and references. I know I sound ungrateful, but I'm not. I do like my name, and I do like the character, kind of. I only like really the cartoon version, and I thought he was cooler as a supervillain. But even then, I just want to be treated normal, even though my name isn't normal, and I don't hate my parents. I mean, I see where they're coming from. They love Star Wars, and they love the character. And I love the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's my favorite show, and I've watched it all the time since I was little. I'm super hyped for the Netflix live-action show, and when I'm older, if I had a daughter, I could see myself wanting to name her after one of the female characters. And the same thing if I had a son. I like my name, and I don't want to change it, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I guess when I graduate, I'm going to just go with Sky because Annie sounds too much like a girl's name, and I can't go with Anna because that sounds like a girl's name too. I'm honestly at such a loss, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna put this in perspective for the original poster real quick, and basically let them know that their parents are awful for doing this to you. Like, they knew what they were doing. Not only did they give you the name of somebody who's like the most famous villain in like movie history, but they also changed your last name. Like, that's insane to me. Why on earth would they do that to you? And it seems like you're taking it in stride and you're trying to make the best of it, but seriously, I can't imagine the bullying that you're going through. And it also is really disappointing that the teachers are mocking you instead of stopping the other kids from mocking stalking you? Because obviously this is bothering you. It's not something you want to deal with. Because seriously, who would want to deal with that? That's like naming your kid Harry Potter. Like, that would be horrifying. Are you kidding me right now? Or even worse, naming them Tom Riddle, which is the real name of Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. Like, that just sucks overall to have to deal with that literally for the rest of your life, and it is seriously not fair for you in the slightest. So hopefully things get better for you in the future because your parents set you up terribly, and it is not fair for you to deal with this level of scrutiny all over a name that you never even wanted. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband yelled at me and broke my belongings because he thinks I'm a narcissist. And right now I'm so confused because he has never acted like this, and it seriously leaves me unsure of what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 2, and in the past 6 months or so, he has had a vested interest in calling me vain, self-absorbed, conceited, or something similar to that. I have no idea why, and he just does it offhandedly, almost like he's making a joke, but a joke that definitely has some truth weaves into it. That being said, I will admit that I do enjoy nice things. I'm what you would call a girly girl, and I do take interest in my looks. I wear makeup and purchase new stuff a lot. I do my hair every single day. I wear nice clothing and skirts and dresses a lot. I spend my own money on my products and clothing, so that isn't the issue either. My husband will buy me jewelry and makeup that he knows that I would like, but I never ask and I always thank him. And no, I haven't changed. I've always been like this and he's never had a problem with it before. Anyway, so this happened about 3 days ago. My husband got home from work and I was in our bedroom organizing some of my stuff. He walked in and I could tell he was about to sit on our bed, so I told him, "Careful, my glasses are right there," because they were. And these are the glasses that I wear to see. He responds by rolling his eyes and asking why I'm so protective of my accessories. I responded back and I said I'm not. They're my literal seeing glasses, and rolled my eyes back. My husband then looked at me for a moment, stood up and went to my dresser. He pulled out my very expensive sunglasses and snapped one of the arms off of it. I stared at him with my mouth open, and he tossed the broken glasses into my lap and actually said to me, "Then you're not mad about that, right?" Now, I responded by yelling, and I know that I shouldn't have, but I asked him, "What is wrong with you?" Yes, I'm mad about that, and if he has a problem with me or the way I look or dress, he just needs to address it and stop being so passive-aggressive and rude. In response to that, my husband says, "Okay, I will." He went to the bathroom where I keep my everyday makeup, threw the entire little organization thing against the hallway wall, and slammed the door so hard the knob broke. When he was walking back towards me, I told him to get away from me while you're acting like a complete psychopath. Does makeup really make you that mad? Well, when I said that, he proceeds to yell at me, accusing me of wanting male attention, other people's attention, and wanting to leave him. I told him that's not true, and if he felt that way, he needs to address it like a normal person who can handle their emotions, which only made him more sad. He came up to me and forcefully rubbed the lipstick off of my lips, accusing me of wearing it for someone at my work. Now, I had just gotten home before him, so I was wearing my work clothes still. He also grabbed the end of my dress and yanked it up, proving how short it was, even though it wasn't. I pushed him away and I told him to not touch me. That's when he demanded that I prove that I didn't like my coworker. I said, "How in the world do I prove that?" And he said, "By being a good wife, and that I need to stop being such a narcissistic jerk." Well, that's when I turned around and left. I got my keys and I drove to my friend's house and just absolutely sobbed for hours. Of course, I immediately started to receive apology text messages and calls, but I just didn't answer. I went back when I knew he would usually be sleeping. That was Tuesday, and the next day was Valentine's Day, and of course, he was the perfect husband that day. We haven't talked about his outburst, but we've barely talked at all. I just don't know how to feel. He's never done this before. He's never acted like this. I mean, why is he acting like this? How do I even fix it? Nothing he said was true, but he was still so adamant. Is this even fixable? What should I do? I'm gonna say this as honestly as I can. I think your husband sounds incredibly dangerous. What starts off as him throwing things against the wall, as well as getting physically aggressive with you, eventually could lead to him getting violent. And that, in my opinion, should be the biggest red flag you've ever seen in your life. It also really seems like this guy is projecting his own insecurities and faults on you. Like all of a sudden, overnight, he's like, "Wow, you're such a narcissist. Prove to me that you don't like your coworker. You plan on leaving me, don't you?" It's like, buddy, what in the world are you talking about? This guy's destroying your belongings, he broke a door, and he did physically get violent with you. And even though he just grabbed grabbed you and it wasn't like him hitting you or anything like that, in my opinion, that is still not okay, and he absolutely should not have done that. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be taking a good hard look at all that's been going on, because what you described sounds very scary, and I know if I were you, I definitely would not take this lightly. An entitled solicitor walks directly into my grandparents' house as he's trying to pawn off and sell his overpriced oil change to my grandparents, and I've honestly never been more annoyed or astonished by somebody's entitlement, as well as how rude they could possibly be in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so some dude that we will call Chad because I don't know their actual real name was trying to promote his auto shop and other stuff. And so I'm in my grandparents' house and I answer the door, and this guy starts talking about his auto shop all in French until I tell him I don't speak French. After poorly explaining why he's there, Chad then sees my grandparents and starts talking to them afterwards in French again. So it's really difficult to even understand what he's saying. He then asks if he can come inside the house. I go to say no, but he doesn't even wait for an answer and just kind of walks in but stays at the door. So how the house is set up, the second you walk in, there are like 5 steps going into the house, both up and down. As Chad continues talking to my grandparents, he starts walking up the stairs further into the house. At this point, he accidentally hits me as he walks by and tells me to move instead of apologizing for hitting me. I'm obviously upset, but my grandparents are able to get him to leave along with his $200 oil change. Like, I took a mechanics class and it should not be that expensive, even if synthetic oil is used. Even without the class, you can find that out with a Google search. So later in the day at around 7:00 p.m., this guy came back. This time my aunt answers the door, but where I'm sitting in the house, you can clearly see me. So he calls out and he's like, "Yo, where's your dad?" He only met my grandfather, so I'm assuming that's what he meant. I then go up to the door and I tell him to leave. I had to say the words go and leave about 15 times before he even started stepping away. And he only started stepping away as my aunt started closing the door, so I doubt my words actually spurred him to go. I even had to pull out the card of saying that I've taken mechanics classes and I can do my own oil change. And as Chad's leaving, he says, "I swear I'm a nice guy." Like, who says that? I mean, this is not how solicitors should act. Like, people already don't like solicitors. You're making it worse, you know. It's also weird to me that he remembers the house and the people inside. And I should have just said that I will call the police. But now I'm upset and I wish I'd done something more instead of just standing idly the first time he came around. I'm just worried because what if he comes back again? Like, he's actually scaring me, because why would he come back at 7:00 in the first place? Like, it's dark outside. I'm also tempted to write a strongly worded letter with a company that he works for, but at this point, I'm not even sure if he actually is a salesman or if he's just a scammer. So at this point, I'm so annoyed and I now seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, it really seems like this guy was an absolute scammer. Like, think about it. This guy came back when it's almost dark out, looking for your grandparents again. Like, that is so sketchy. It's not even funny. And this guy was trying to sell a $200 oil change. Like, that is nuts to me. There's no reason that should cost that much, and seriously, that absolutely is a scam. And it really does seem like he was targeting elderly people just so he could get some like quick cash out of them, and that is really not okay. So in my opinion, I would warn your family and lock the doors, because this Chad guy is seriously up to no good. My entitled 75-year-old roommate filed a restraining order against me, claiming that I stole his personal property as well as made threats against him in the process. And I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is going to be a long one, and I would appreciate all the help that I could get. I got a restraining order on me under false pretenses from my landlord/roommate. He accused me of stealing money, jewelry, and his 2006 tax returns, and he filed a police report and a no contact order on me despite no evidence. He also claimed he felt threatened and unsafe in his own home and had to put a lock on his door. For reference, I'm an 18-year-old male, and I moved into a place in January of this year with an older 75-year-old gentleman. Within 2 weeks, we had a garage sale that lasted 3 days, and during the garage sale, we had people in the garage and inside the home, where we had racks of clothing and in the garage. I would say we had over 200 people come over 3 days, and during the first day, I sold about $1,200 worth of items, and at the end of the day, I counted it in front of him, he gave me my cut, and he took the money. The next day, we sold around $600, and then he claimed he lost $200 from the first day and $300 from the second day. On Sunday, he confronted me about it by saying, "I don't care if you took it because you can't pay rent, but just be honest." Well, I denied all the claims, and I told him I don't need his money, nor his $500. It's not worth the risk of ruining a great living situation. And I have $5,000 sitting in cash in my room right now. Then he claimed he was missing jewelry. Now keep in mind, when I lived with him, he locked his keys in his car twice in the span of 3 weeks and couldn't remember many things. After the garage sale, we continued living together very cordially, watching football together, making dinner, and having conversations. There was no hostility or violence in the house ever. But one day after that, he said he saw a tax return outside on the driveway, and when he got back home, it was gone. He was worried that someone was gonna try and take his identification, and I tried soothing him so he calmed down. Well, on the 2nd of February, he got home and told me he filed a police report for all the jewelry and money he lost because he has home insurance. But little did I know that he filed it all on me. We continued living great together all the way up until February 14th. We even watched the Super Bowl together. But on the 14th, I was in my room when a cop opens my door and stated that I needed to pack some bags and leave based on the no contact order. Now, I did so with no issue, and the night after, I then received a lease termination based on accusations of theft and me threatening the old guy. The deadbolt on his door was installed before I toured the place, and I have an eyewitness to that. So that leaves me with some questions. I am already planning on appealing the protective order, and I feel I have substantial proof to get it thrown out. But where do I take it next? Do I countersue as well? He owes me about $1,800 for the last month, which is prorated rent for February and my deposit, which he states I won't receive based on damages done. I mean, I lived in the house for less than a month and didn't damage a thing. I don't know if I should start looking for a lawyer and getting consultations or if a public defender will suffice, but I'm honestly at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I really think you should probably get a lawyer. This sounds like a messy legal situation, and it sounds like you're gonna end up in some kind of courtroom pretty much regardless. But what I can say is that your roommate is absolutely awful. He clearly is lying or making this up in some kind of way, or he's trying to justify him losing his property by blaming it on you. And he feels he can probably get away with it because you're a teenager. Sure, you're 18 and you're considered an adult in the United States, but I remember what I was like when I was 18 years old, and trust me, I did not understand the world in the slightest. And that's not because of my own fault, but rather just from a lack of experience. And I bet you this guy is trying to use that against you and use your lack of experience in the world to try and get one over on you and get this claim back through his home insurance. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely look for a lawyer that can help you out, because this guy not only owes you money, but he's also falsely accusing you of something that you did not do. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely not take that for a second. An entitled Karen at Planet Fitness tries to get me in trouble, claiming that I'm hovering over her as she's working out and that I was being intrusive the entire time she was working. But thankfully, the gym staff as well as another witness close by saw the entire thing, and they vouched for me well above what the Karen could possibly say. Here's what happened. So I just encountered a wild Karen from Planet Fitness. Two things to keep in mind about me. I'm 6'1", about 2 meters tall, and I weigh about 240 pounds. This is relevant because I've dealt with many people like this who think they can get me in trouble because I'm a larger male, with them just trying to play the victim card. I was down to my last exercise on one of the machines, and there was a middle-aged blonde woman using it, so I stood about 8 feet away. I did not even look in her direction. I was listening to music on my earbuds, watching one of the many TVs while glancing back at my phone here and there. About 5 minutes into it, she turns to me. I take my headphones out and she asks me if I'm waiting for the machine. I say yes, and then I look back at my phone. This Karen says, "Well, I'm gonna be a while." So I respond by saying, "No rush, take your time." She then gets up and waves her hand in my face. She says to me, "Can you not stand over me?" I look at her and I say, "I am not standing anywhere near you. I'm patiently waiting for the machine." I even made sure my body wasn't facing her in an aggressive manner. At this time, there was an older woman who just sat down at the next machine over, and she said, "Don't worry, honey, you can come stand over me." We both laughed and I moved about 2 feet over to her and away from the Karen. The Karen starts to mutter insults to herself, but I don't really care and I go back to my music. About 10 minutes later, she dramatically gets up and yells at me. She says, "You can jump on it now." And she says this as she marches towards the front desk. I reply to her by saying, "Don't worry, I'll wipe it down and clean it for you," because of course she didn't do it. I get my sets in and then I walk up to the front desk, asking them what she said about me. One of them replies by saying, "You? She was talking about you?" The second person at the desk says that I'm the nicest person in here. I come in, I do my work, and I never bother anybody. They compliment me again by saying I'm the sweetest guy and I'm always polite, that they've had problems with this Karen in the past, and that I don't have anything to worry about. While the three of us are are chatting and laughing. I glance across the gym at Karen and I see that she is giving me the death glare. Then this other guy walks up to me and tells the two staff members that he saw the whole thing, that the woman is something else, and that I was nothing but polite to her and she was being belligerent. He then looks at me and says that I handled that a lot better than he would have. Now, this ending might not be as satisfying as you might want it to be, but it's a huge win for me, and I just had to share it online. These situations don't always work out in my favor, and I'm just thankful it did, and that this Karen had to sit there getting more angry and more miserable. Yeah, you know for a fact that Karen was trying to pull one over on you. She definitely wanted to get you in trouble in some kind of way, and that's all because you were standing, what, 8 feet away? Like seriously, you're off to the side, minding your own business, and you're even facing away from her. Like this lady was clearly just trying to cause problems. And it really just doesn't make sense because you literally said nothing to her. And that's the part about this that bothers me the most. It's like she saw this big guy standing there and she made this wild assumption that you're like standing and hovering over her. But it's like, really? He's standing across the room. He is literally not even bothering you. It's also really nice that the gym staff had your back, because this very easily could have been a different story if they didn't know who you were. Not to mention the other guy who saw the entire thing. So good for you for keeping your cool and handling this so well, because that Karen was looking for a fight, and it's really nice that you decided not to give it to her. An entitled family lets their kids run loose in our restaurant, constantly getting in the way, while also causing our serving staff to drop food and water on the ground. But it all came to a head when my coworker stepped in and told off the party that had all these kids running around, saying that they were awful parents and that if they couldn't watch their kids, then they should leave the restaurant. And as a result, the mother of the kids ran out of the restaurant crying, and I'm honestly still in shock of everything that my coworker did to put this entitled family in their place. Here's what happened. Okay, so my coworker, who we will call Tatiana, that's not her real name, made a woman at my table cry and leave the restaurant. For some background, I work at a huge restaurant in the Florida Keys, and we are very busy because our restaurant is one of the few on the island able to take big groups. So when a party of 15 come in, it's honestly no big deal. Although this party had 8 kids ages ranging from 3 to 9 years old. Everything is going smoothly in the beginning. The parents are consistently ordering rounds of drinks, they're ordering expensive food, and they're pretty nice people even though they are a little needy. The only issue was the kids as they began to run around the entire restaurant. This is pretty normal because, well, they are children, and with 8 of them, it is pretty hard to keep all of them sitting at a table at once. However, the parents were not stopping them or even watching them as they began to run into our food runners and servers, which did cause one waitress to drop a tray of waters, which is not a huge deal, but still, it shouldn't have happened. At this point, the wait staff became frustrated with the behavior of the parents for not stepping in and trying to settle the kids down, or at least watch them in some kind of way. However, they were about to pay, so we only had to deal with it for a little bit longer. Now, before I share what happened next, you should have a little bit of background information on one of our waitresses. We'll call her Tatiana, and she is a red-headed Russian woman with a very thick accent who chain smokes and has only lived in America for maybe 3 years. Therefore, she's very bold and a little forward with her comments sometimes. As the group of 15 pay their tab, they apologize for the kids running around and say thank you as this is their first vacation with all the kids and felt as though they finally got time to relax. As the parents are finishing their drinks before heading out, Tatiana finds one of the kids on the opposite side of the restaurant near our back wait station. She grabs the little girl by the arm and walks her over to the table. She could have just brought the girl back and not said a word, but that is not Tatiana. She proceeds to find the girl's mother, who is obviously very pregnant, and says to her something that really blew my mind. She said, "You need to be a better mother. I just found her over there and you don't even care. Your kids have been running around for over an hour. Keep them in line or leave this restaurant." Well, the woman was mortified when she heard this and began crying as the other adults at the table are sitting in shock over what was just said. The crying woman immediately got up and quickly walked out of the restaurant as I was walking over to the table to ask if everything was okay, and I did not know at all what Tatiana had just said. After the other adults angrily told me, I found my manager, who then rushed to catch the lady and try to reconcile the situation. The group explained they will not be coming back to this restaurant and recommended that we fire Tatiana for her atrocious words. Now, when it comes to Tatiana, she wasn't written up, fired, or sent home for the night. The case she made for herself to the manager was that the kids were disrupting the restaurant workers and the other customers, and that she was worried for the safety of the kids too. Our restaurant is waterfront with accessible boardwalks, so they could have fallen into the water, gotten a tray dropped on them, or could have ended up in our busy parking lot because we are a tiki restaurant with many different exit points. But it honestly leaves me with a serious question. Should Tatiana have been reprimanded for what she said to the pregnant woman, or did she do the right thing by standing up for the rest of the customers and waitstaff? Because right now, I'm seriously not sure what to think. Okay, your coworker Tatiana is my hero because she said the quiet part out loud for all of us. The family in this story absolutely needed to be better parents, and they need to do a better job of keeping their kids in line. Because honestly, all of her points are valid. That child could have gotten really hurt, she could have run into the kitchen and gotten hurt, or taken out by a car in the parking lot. Like seriously, there's so many things that could have gone wrong. And sure, Tatiana was probably frustrated, and her reasoning for telling off this family was probably multifaceted, but those points that she made legitimately, in my opinion, completely justifies the way she talked to this family. They were not watching their kids, and it was a detriment to literally everybody in the restaurant. And honestly, if that family never wants to come back, then in my opinion, good riddance. They were clearly just being a nuisance in the restaurant, and they were being incredibly disrespectful to everybody in there. So in my opinion, I don't think your coworker's the jerk at all, and I think she did the best thing for everybody in the restaurant. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled group of Karens complain about their food, claiming that there's hair all over their food and demanding that they get a discount on all the food that they got. Here's what happened. So this happened to me last night, and of course I'm coming here to brag about it because this was just absolutely hilarious. And this moment with my table has probably made my entire year. I work at a casual fine dining steakhouse, and the prices are a little bit high. And this is a situation where even two people could eat at our restaurant together, and the bill could be at least $100. Anyways, President's Weekend is always chaotic and extremely busy. I had a 6-top of these diva 18-year-olds come in, and from the start they were very rude and talking down to me because I'm a server. Now I'm very non-confrontational. I just ignored it and kept pushing through. Things were going fine until towards the end when it was time to get their checks. Now, all of a sudden, there were just a list of complaints. They said to me, "There's hair everywhere. It's on my steak, it's on my napkins, it's on the table. This is so gross. I'm not paying for this." Then she picks up the hair from her steak and it's a brown hair. None of us at my restaurant have brown hair. I have red hair and most of us have black hair, with a few of us being blonde. But it does look like her hair though. But I really didn't care. I wasn't going to battle it as it wasn't my job, so I just told management. So management goes up to the table and she gives them the filet. Our filet is cheaper than our New York strip, and this will be important later on. Management doesn't feel like fighting her on it, so they comp off the filet. I drop off the bill and this lady is angry and starts arguing with me again. She says to me, "It wasn't the filet you took, it was the New York strip. I want the New York strip taken off." I tell her that my manager said it was the filet you gave him. So it was the filet he was going to take off the check. Now she's even more angry and says that my management doesn't know their cuts of meat, which is blatantly not true, as they definitely know what they're talking about, as do I. But nonetheless, I go back to my manager. At this point, he is completely done. He decides he's just going to leave the filet comped off, but he will discount the New York just to get them out of here. Because at this point, I'm done and he's done with them. What he did was cheaper than just getting rid of the New York cut and adding the filet back, which was like over $20 cheaper. So I bring the new check and she's still upset because she doesn't want to pay for the New York strip at all. Then it starts happening. My other table has watched this from the beginning and they too have had enough. They literally yell at my table of divas, saying that that is absolutely ridiculous. The diva table wouldn't say a word to them, and my table of good Samaritans pulled me aside and they were telling me that if that table even looked at me wrong again, they were gonna go over there and teach him a lesson. And they said this loudly on purpose because they wanted the divas to hear it. I go to my manager and now he's really aggravated. He does exactly what the diva asked, and he removed the New York strip, but puts the filet back on and removes any discount off the check. And just like that, the bill goes up $25. Then I drop the check off and the diva takes a look at it, and she finally notices the increase in price. She then makes a very surprised face, but she just doesn't say anything. And I think it's because the other table scared her. They pay and leave me a $5 tip for the entire bill. My other table that screamed at this diva table joked with me after they left, and they left me enough as a tip to literally cover the divas and theirs. And I'm honestly so sick of dealing with entitled people like this. Yeah, that's so weird because they literally could have taken the discount and then left the restaurant. But instead of doing feeling like simple math, they decided to be difficult. And honestly, if you're not even gonna try to be halfway decent, then you deserve to get a higher price. And in my opinion, that is absolutely the reward that they deserve. My boyfriend is being way too lenient with his homeless friend who is currently staying in our spare room. And I'm honestly at a point where I want him gone, but I seriously am not sure how to go about doing it. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend has a friend from high school who is homeless and has been for a few years now. He keeps bouncing between different friends' houses, but he has stayed at ours the longest. He recently came back from Italy as he was staying with his mom, and I said yes to him staying, but said there had to be a deadline. My boyfriend agreed to this, and we told his friend he had 3 weeks to find a job as well as an alternative place to live. Now, it may sound like I'm being harsh, but he has stayed with us for months before and did absolutely nothing to better his situation during said times. He spent all of his money from the government on substances and was too high all day to apply for jobs or look at properties. My boyfriend even offered him a job at his workplace if he just filled out the application, and he failed to do this 3 different times. My boyfriend feels bad telling him that he has to go, and also says it's helpful having him to watch the dog if we go out. However, this friend creates more work for the both of us. I often finish work to find my benches covered in the herb and coffee, as well as urine on the bathroom floor and mud all over the rugs because he didn't take his shoes off after being outside. He also leaves his clothing, his mugs, and plates everywhere. He does tidy up if I tell him to, but I'm honestly sick of having to tell him. The icing on the cake happened this week. He agreed to give us about $200 a month for the room, utilities, food, and clothing being washed, but he only gave us $100. And this was because he failed to turn up to his appointment with the job center, with his excuse being that it was raining and my boyfriend was using the car, so his money was completely stopped. However, he magically found about $180 just so he could buy a big bag of the herb the next day. It's been a month now and he's only viewed one property. He hasn't applied for any jobs and hasn't applied for college. He has no qualifications, and since I'm a teacher, I offered to tutor him for free just to get him his English and math scores so he could apply to a local college. He still has nowhere to go, and I don't want to kick him out onto the street, but I just feel like we're enabling him to do nothing. We have no idea how to go about doing these things, as he talks about the dangerous side of depression whenever we do approach this subject. So I'm honestly now completely at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, from the sounds of it, in my opinion, it seems like this friend is manipulating you and your boyfriend. He is very clearly using you guys, and he just wants to live there for free, which is why he hasn't looked for a place to live or anything like that. And I just don't think that's fair at all. I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be putting my foot down and say to him that he has a hard cutoff by a certain time, and that he will be leaving on that day no matter what. Because doing anything other than that will only cause problems. If you're not firm and you don't tell him exactly what's going on, this guy will just keep living there no problem. He'll keep wasting his money on illegal substances and just completely get high all the time. So hopefully this goes well for you in figuring this out, because what you're dealing with right now sounds really annoying, and you definitely do not deserve to deal with this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling all of my friends and family the exact reason why my vacation home is off limits after my nephew started a kitchen fire and caused thousands of dollars worth of damage? Because I am still upset that my brother refuses to pay for that, despite the fact that his son is the reason that fire started in the first place. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I rent out my house through a service that includes insurance when it's in use. The insurance does not cover when I lend my house out to friends and family, since they are not paying to stay there. I have regular homeowner's insurance for that. My brother was using my house with his family just after New Year's. It's a slow time and I wasn't going to lose out on much income. My nephew stayed up late one night and didn't go out for breakfast with his family, so he decided to make himself some food. Well, long story short, he started a kitchen fire. He freaked out and called 911 instead of using the fire extinguisher in the kitchen. He is 14, so I can't blame him too much though. The smoke damage will cost about $8,000 to fix, and I told my brother he could take his time paying me back, but he said he wasn't going to pay for an innocent mistake. Now, I needed the house in order, so I just fixed everything. I didn't go through insurance since I do not want my rates to go up. I was obviously upset, so I posted about the fire and how upset I was at my brother, and pretty much all of my friends and family took the side of the innocent angel. They said it was unfair of me to expect that much money from him when he could have just rented a hotel for a fourth of the price. So, you know what? I agreed. I said that from now on, my house was off limits unless they rented it out, or I was there and they came as my guest. Since I only use the house with my family, that means they can rent it all or use the only empty bedroom. And that room has a twin bed and a crib. Now, the howling started that I'm being unfair to them for something that wasn't their fault. I offered to take up a collection from them to cover the repairs or the increased insurance premiums, and most of them just shut up. I directed them all to my brother, and he got quite angry with me for blaming him for the situation. I said I wasn't about to send a mob after my nephew. I bought the house after I got a settlement from a worksite accident. I used the income to supplement the difference in what I used to earn in my old job and what I do now. So I guess my question is, honestly, am I the jerk here? Am I in the wrong for telling anybody who has a problem with me charging rent to take those complaints over to my brother and talk to him about it? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure what to do. You are 100% justified for asking for rent and for directing all questions to your brother. In my opinion, your brother absolutely should have paid for all of that damage, and his stupid kid is 100% at fault. How on earth do you cause a kitchen fire like that and not know to try and put it out? You don't just stand by and let it go up in flames. Like, what are you doing? Get a fire extinguisher or some water or something. To sit there and be like, oh, I gotta call the police and then not do anything about it is insane to me. Like, some common sense would have really gotten that kid a long way. And sure, it might sound like I'm being hard on a 14-year-old, but seriously, that is definitely old enough to know better. And at the bare minimum, not start a kitchen fire, for crying out loud. So no, you are not the jerk. These people have clearly taken advantage of your kindness and have denied any kind of help with paying for the stuff that they clearly destroyed. And in my opinion, if they really want to act like that, then they can go through the official means of renting that house if they really want to try and stay there. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my daughter as much as my son and refusing to supplement her check so that they are equal? Because right now she is really upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my two oldest kids are in college and working part-time to earn some spending money. They live at home and we pay for their tuition, cars, insurance, and basically everything except for spending money. I have my own small construction company and I run a crew of about 15 men, including my son. Lately, we've been doing mostly roofing jobs. My son's job is to help take off the old shingles, put up any shingles that miss the dumpster, and help prep the roof. Once the installation starts, he delivers a steady stream of shingles, nails, and other materials to the nailers. It's a dangerous and hard job, so I pay him about $25 an hour. Now, my daughter works as a cashier, but most of the time she's standing at the self-checkout lanes and rarely works behind the register. She's paid about $15 an hour. Last weekend, my son bought his girlfriend a new iPhone for Valentine's Day and was talking about the restaurant he's going to take her to. Since it is an expensive phone and restaurant, my daughter asked where he's getting the money. That then led to how much I'm paying him, and she got mad. He's been working with me for about 4 months, but she's never shown any interest in what we do or asked anything about his job or pay, so it came as a surprise to her. The short version of a week-long argument in our house is that she thinks it's unfair he's making so much more than she is. I offered her the same hourly wage if she wants to join her brother on the roof, but she went once and didn't finish out the day. Instead, she wants to make up the difference between their paychecks. My wife thinks that I should come up with an easier job, like just let her pick up the shingles that miss the dumpsters. But I said that's an easy job, and I'm not paying her $25 an hour for a minimum wage job. I told her that she can make as much as her brother, but she doesn't want to carry heavy and dirty shingles. Well, now both women are giving me the silent treatment. My wife even went as far last night as to eat dinner with our daughter before my son, and I got home at 6 and later went to bed without saying a word to me all night. Now, for reference, my wife doesn't work. She stays at home and takes care of our younger kids. And when it comes to my company, it is a very small company. With 15 men, I have 2 crews on larger jobs or 3 on smaller jobs. There is no bookkeeping or other positions that she can do because I do those on the weekends. There's only the construction positions. None of our kids have any interest in taking over my company, and it'll close when I retire. Our son just got accepted into dental school, and our daughter is almost done with her education degree. But with all that in mind, I seriously need to know, am I the jerk for the way I explain this to my kids and my wife? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you explain this perfectly in my opinion. First of all, you have a small company. It's not like you have all these other positions available that your daughter can just suddenly fill to try and make that much money per hour. And also, your reasoning for why your son makes $25 $25 an hour, in my opinion, is completely sound. This guy's working a dangerous job. He's working around debris as well as working on a roof, and he's doing all this stuff that is very high-skilled labor. Like, it is something that anybody could pick up and do, but it takes a lot of guts to get on that roof and be comfortable up there, while also still performing your job without like this fear of falling. I know for me personally, there's no way I would ever work on a roof because I have a massive fear of falling, so kudos to the original poster and his son for being so willing to do those jobs. So it honestly makes sense to me that your son would make more money than your daughter. And you know what? Being a cashier is incredibly easy. It is a very low risk type of job, especially compared to what your son is doing every day. I mean, she's just standing at the self-checkout center, and that honestly kind of takes care of itself, and you're only really there if things go wrong. And I'm not saying that it's not an important job, but it is definitely a lot safer than what your son is currently doing. And in my opinion, if your job is dangerous like this job, then you absolutely should be financially compensated for that. And you know what? This also teaches a very valuable lesson for your daughter, because it shows her quite blatantly that some jobs get paid a lot more than other jobs. Jobs in construction or other dangerous jobs that require a lot of skill to know what you're doing safely, those will typically be higher paying jobs. Whereas working at a grocery store or some kind of clerical position, it will usually be a little bit lower paying, and I'm more referring to like entry level more than anything else. And there really is nothing wrong with working at a grocery store as a cashier or working as like a bookkeeper or anything like that. Like seriously, it doesn't matter in my opinion. If you make ends meet and you're able to support yourself and your family, like seriously, who cares what you do? But this does shed a very serious spotlight that there are jobs that are higher paying, but they might just be a little bit more dangerous. So I think the fact that your wife and your daughter are giving you the silent treatment is really weird to me, because I don't think you're the jerk and I don't think you deserve that in the slightest. My partner's entitled mother claims that she got me my job and that she should be praised and thanked for getting me a job. But aside from only telling me about the job itself, my partner's mom is absolutely delusional, and I'm honestly at my wit's end dealing with her weird attitude. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I took a huge step last year and I moved in with my long distance partner. My big focus when we moved into our apartment was securing a job. I'd been job hunting and sending in resumes and applications as early as a month before moving. But those of you who have been playing the job application game the past couple of years or so know exactly how bad the post-pandemic job market really is. I ended up finding and getting hired at a place within 6 weeks of moving into our apartment, which was really awesome. But how this came about has become quite a point of contention. I had originally considered the company that I know work for among the places I was applying, but I placed it lower on the list given they originally didn't list what they planned to pay, and I considered the commute to be too far to justify the gas. I was also worried it could be a waste of time, as too many businesses are claiming that they're desperately hiring nowadays, but then they never get back to you. About 3 weeks after moving in, my partner's parents stopped by. His mom was upset because she had stopped by the business before coming by and found it partially closed due to short staffing. She told me that I should go and apply. I told her I had considered and gave her the reasons why I had not yet applied, but decided to do so since it was clear they were actually in need of staff. Within 2 weeks of sending in my application, I was gotten back to, I was interviewed, and then I was hired. I ended up learning the pay and the benefits more than justified my commuting time, and I've been happily employed here ever since. But here's where the problems come in. My partner's mom constantly talks about how she got me that job. Anytime someone asked about my work in front of her and I respond positively, she reminds me that I should thank her, because without her, I wouldn't be so happy or paid so well. I mean, she never lets it go. She never fails to bring it up, and it's been driving me crazy lately. And while I've asked my partner to please speak to her about it, she still hasn't pulled back. I had a very long day yesterday, and I ended up snapping at her at the dinner table when she brought it up yet again. She said to me that I don't thank her enough for getting me that nice job. But I told her she did not get me that job. She did not work through my previous jobs, build my skills, or compile my resume for me. She didn't fill out my application, she didn't go to my interview, or go to my training. That was literally all on me. I told her I appreciate that she let me know they were understaffed and renewed my interest in applying, but the person who gets me my job and my money is me and me alone. Well, after I said that, she is now very unhappy and has called me disrespectful and says that I just have no respect for older people. My partner agrees with me that she's been pushing it too far, but wants me to try and make peace. But I honestly don't think that I should have to. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Am I justified for calling her out and saying saying exactly what I did, because right now I'm seriously not sure what to do. You are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is absolutely obnoxious, and the fact that she's trying to take credit for you getting that job is so atrocious. Like, her frequency of reminding you in front of everybody has almost become like this weird, aggressive form of control where she's trying to put herself above you for some weird reason. Because you've got it right, she didn't do anything to get you that job. The only thing she did was point out that they're looking for people to work there, and that was literally it. So sure, she can take credit for tipping you off, but like, seriously, who would take credit for that? She's trying to equate that small act of like generosity as some kind of like groundbreaking moment where she can be like, ooh, you owe me so much. Now you have to respect me because I got one over on you. Like, that's really the attitude I'm getting from this lady, and it's really obnoxious. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your partner's mom is 100% at fault, and she didn't do a thing to help you out in the slightest. So I don't blame you for correcting her and putting a stop to this once and for all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I'm thinking about calling off my wedding, all because of my fiance's comments about me bringing my son to live with me. Because right now, I'm completely devastated, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I lived in America up until I was 15 years old, and then my mom sent me to live with my dad in Guyana. I was originally supposed to live there until I was 18 years old, but I ended up coming back to New York when I was 24. During my time in Guyana, I had a son with my ex-girlfriend. I moved back to New York when he was 2 years old, and his mom and I decided it's best for him to stay with her in Guyana. It's better for him to know his culture and stay grounded. I have been back there many times to see him, and he's come to stay here with me as well. In the end, he was always supposed to come here to live with me, and this is where my fiance comes in. We've been together for 2.5 years, and she has met my son. I've always been very vocal about the fact that he's going to come and live with me, and this year is the year where he will permanently be moving here. He's going to come in the summer and then start his first year of middle school. Well, I started to notice her not being on board with the whole idea last year, which is right when I was looking for houses. I was thinking about moving somewhere nearby in New Jersey due to a better school system, but my fiance disagreed. There have been other pretty minimal things here and there since, but she's never outright said that he shouldn't come here, but has said things that heavily implied it. However, each time I ask her to further explain, it would end with the fact that she wants him here. Well, our wedding is literally 3 Saturdays from now, and yesterday she said explicitly that she does not want him to move in with us. We started arguing about something else that was pretty minimal, but it escalated to a bigger discussion about our future, and that's when she said that she prefers if he remains with his mom. Her main reasoning was that she didn't want to fill in as a stepmom with no other mom present. She would feel so odd with having him around pretty much early on in our marriage, and she feels like we should wait until he's older, or she wants him to not come at all and just come for vacations. From day one, I have said that my son is going to live with me, even going as far as giving her a time frame. I always said that I want him here right before he starts middle school. I've said this for 2.5 years. If she felt this way the whole time, then why not say something earlier? Why wait until only weeks before our wedding? I'm genuinely thinking about calling it off, and I need advice on my options here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. This is honestly so unfair to you, it really does suck. So the entire time, like the entire time she's known you, she has had these thoughts and these doubts in the back of her mind, but she hasn't said anything about it. Like, you literally could not have been more clear that this is something you want to happen. And now what, 3 Saturdays from your wedding, she's now being like, well, wait a second, let's not have your son move here. It's like, what are you talking about? It is way too late for that. If she really had an issue with this, she should have brought this up, I don't know, years ago, or maybe moved on to somebody else that could share a goal that she agrees with. But to silently go along with this, only to then drop this on someone who clearly wants this, is honestly insane to me. And that is seriously a massive red flag. I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be looking at changing things around big time, because this is a huge betrayal of trust. You thought you had somebody who was on board with your plans, or at least someone who shared the same goals as you in some kind of way, but boy, does it really seem like she lied to you just to get this far. So hopefully this all works out for you and you're able to find some kind of solution, because legitimately what you're describing right now sounds absolutely awful. I caught my friend kissing my husband's neck while I was asleep, and now that I've confronted my husband about this, he's claiming that nothing bad happened and that I'm blowing things way out of proportion. And at this point, I seriously now don't know what to do. Okay, so my husband and I have been married for 2 years and together for 3. This just happened about 5 hours ago, and I'm not sure how to feel or what to believe. For context, my friend comes over to drink and hang out every once in a while, and when she does, we let her sleep in the guest room so she doesn't drive home drunk. Last night, we all decided to watch a movie in bed. I fell asleep after maybe an hour, and at 4 a.m., I feel them both move off of the bed, so it woke me up. My husband said he went to go get water, and my friend said that she had to use the bathroom. After they got back onto the bed, I was awake, but my eyes were closed. I noticed the movie got louder, and then I heard a kissing noise. I turned over slowly, and I saw my friend caressing my husband from behind and giving him kisses on his neck while he watched the movie. Once she realized that I saw her, she froze, quickly moved her hands, and we stared at each other for a good 30 seconds. Eventually, I asked her what was going on, and she swore it was nothing and that nothing happened. My husband initially said the same, but after about an hour and a half of asking for the truth, he told me that he didn't know the kisses were for him and that he froze and didn't know what to do. When I asked him why it took him so long to tell me the truth, he said it was because he was afraid of how my friend would react. I don't know if I should believe him or not. She kissed him twice that I know of, and he has a history of lying to me. My friend was quiet the whole time I was trying to get the truth out of my husband, and eventually I told her to leave my house. She left, and my husband got upset at me for being mad at him for what happened. Personally, I think he shouldn't have let it get to that point in the first place. He said that she caught him by surprise, but eventually confessed that she first rubbed him on his back and told him it's okay, and then after that, she sat directly behind him, hugged him from behind, and started to kiss his neck multiple times. He said that she was probably just comforting him because she noticed that he was upset because him and I have been having some issues lately. But I feel like they both have fault. She was insanely wrong for doing that, and he was wrong for letting her do that. He says that I'm messed up for getting mad at him and not her, which is not true. I'm honestly mad at the both of them. I'm not sure how to go about this. Part of me wants to call it quits, but the other half of me feels bad for not believing him. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I think you need to say the quiet part out loud in my opinion, because it really seems like your husband is cheating on you. I don't believe for a second that this is something that just happened suddenly in your bed. Like, I'm pretty sure this has been going on for a while, and he's definitely been a willing participant in all of this. Like, I know for a fact that if a woman started kissing up on me, and I had a girlfriend who I loved and appreciated, I would recoil from her immediately and be like, wait a second, what are you doing? Get away from me. I would make a massive fuss and say, you've got to go. This is not okay, and you've crossed a serious boundary. But the husband in this story didn't do anything like that. He didn't even push away from her when she started rubbing up against him. Like, he just sat there and allowed it to happen. So it kind of makes me believe that he's used to this kind of treatment from this friend specifically. And that's honestly awful. It makes me wonder what they do together when you fall asleep inside of that guest room. This all seems super sketchy, and in my opinion, a massive red flag you cannot ignore. I mean, he even tried to say, oh, I didn't stop her because I was afraid of how she would react. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Your wife is literally sleeping right next to you on your bed. So hopefully this all works out for you, because this honestly sounds awful, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. My mom feels entitled to my clothing all the time, constantly calling me selfish if I don't give her all of my clothing whenever she wants it, while also saying that I'm gonna be a terrible roommate and friends to anybody in the future. And I'm honestly so done with the way she treats me that I'm already planning on cutting her out of my life when I get old enough. And I honestly can't wait for that day to come sooner than later. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female, and my mom, who lives in Oregon, had a falling out this December, and recently she came to visit me and my dad in Texas. I was very worried about this because of her and I having the fight, but she seemed to regret what she did and was trying to be careful around me for the first day that she visited, which I really did appreciate. The second day, she asked to borrow some leggings or shorts from me to go play tennis, and I initially said no, as I buy all my clothes myself, and I'm pretty protective over my leggings in particular, which are pretty expensive, and I don't like getting dirty or sweaty. However, she begged me, so I gave her a pair of shorts to use. She said they were too short, and she needed leggings because of the cold outside. So I found a pair that I would maybe be okay with her using, as long as she took care of them. She tried them on and told me that they were too short as well, and that she needed leggings that go all the way down to her ankle instead of the mid-calf. I argued with her and said that I wasn't willing to let her borrow the ones I own like that, and then she started yelling at me, and my dad did as well to back her up, saying that I'm selfish and I need to hand them over. Well, I told her no, and that I had given her plenty of options, and that she should just choose from those, and that it wasn't my fault that she hadn't packed any any with her. She and my dad then said that I should have let her look through my closet and pick out whatever she wanted, and that everyone, such as my future roommates and friends, are going to hate me because I was too selfish. I just walked away to my room to cool off, and there I found a pair of fleece-lined leggings, which she initially accepted, but she heard the tone of my voice, which wasn't sunshine and rainbows, due to her being so rude to me right before. She said that I was being too rude to her and that she didn't need the leggings anyways because she could just wear the pair that she had worn on the plane the day before. I was so incredibly insulted by this because if she had a pair, then why ask me for one? We were both pretty upset, and she calmed down a little bit and said she wanted to talk to me about how selfish I was being. I told her it was not the right time as I had to get to work, and when I went to go, she then said an awful swear word to me, and I honestly couldn't believe it. She said this to her own daughter, who she was trying to make it up to. My dad refused to drive me to work, so I went to bike over. As I was leaving, my mom decided to put in one last jab and told me to take off the shirt I was wearing, which she had given me because it didn't suit her. She grabbed a pair of scissors and said she was going to cut it up, to which I laughed and took off the shirt. My dad realized how crazy she was acting and tried to calm her down. She asked why I was laughing, and I said to her, "And you think that you've changed? That is honestly a joke." Anyways, I changed my shirt and was halfway out the door when she yelled at me some more. I eventually then left for work and got out of there. But unfortunately, this is not even the worst of my mom. But once I'm old enough, I absolutely have the plan to cut her out of my life. Yeah, your mom sounds absolutely unhinged. Like, her behavior was completely unhinged. She quite literally tried to steal clothing from you, all under the guise of like, oh, but I need a pair of leggings. But it's like she already brought leggings with her. Why she try to take yours and use yours instead of her own? Like, that really is weird to me, and I would be just as upset as the original poster in this situation. Like, she's literally just doing this, it seems like, to get a rise out of you. And that is so annoying to deal with. So truly, I hope everything works out for you in the end. I really hope you don't have to deal with your mom in this capacity very soon, because the way she's acting and treating you is so self-centered. And in my opinion, your mom and your dad absolutely suck. My husband tries to warn our neighbors about their landscaping, but gets told to mind his own business several times. So my husband decides to maliciously comply, allowing them to practically ruin their yard and get in trouble with the city and the HOA. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, my husband is pretty handy. Prior to COVID, he had flipped several houses as a fun side gig. It's what he really loves to do, and he became very familiar with a ton of city codes. During COVID, it seems everyone was suddenly buying houses to flip out of boredom, and prices skyrocketed, so he put that on hold. So then he started doing household repairs and upgrades, building fences and stuff like that all around the neighborhood as well. To get a better understanding of the neighborhood HOA bylaws and whatnot, he joined the HOA Architectural Committee, though he learned all there was to know about what was allowed and what was not, how the processes worked, and how to work around certain things. So, long story short, my husband was very knowledgeable in what to do and not do, and various processes with the neighborhood and the city. Our next door neighbor decided they were going to start landscaping their backyard, and they, I guess, planned to make theirs as similar to our backyard as possible. The problem was that despite being next door neighbors, our land was quite different. For one thing, behind our house was a bunch of brush and pine trees, maybe 3 to 4 feet from the lake that's at the back of the house. We didn't have to do a whole lot to clear the area, but the brush on their property was about 1/3 of their yard, and I'd say it was about 10 feet from the water, give or take. Also, the way the houses on our street are, the land naturally made like a valley, where the house to our right is at the top and we're in the middle, and the next two houses are at the bottom before it quickly rises again. The first thing the neighbors did was cut down all the trees in their backyard, and they were not small trees either, but rather 4-story tall trees or more. My husband and neighbor were talking about the backyard plans when my husband casually mentioned that he was surprised the city gave him permission to cut down so many trees. For reference, in our city, you had to have an arborist give permission to cut down any trees that were over a certain height. The neighbor first said it wasn't the city's business what he did with his backyard. Then he told my husband to mind his own business, which is like, okay, fair enough. Then they started putting up the retaining wall to bring it up to level with our property, which would have been about 7 to 8 feet tall. Basically, they were just stacking a bunch of cinder blocks. So my husband uneasily asked if their landscapers had ever done a retaining wall like that, and if the city approved it. The city says that if a retaining wall is over 5 feet tall, you need a structural engineer to come out. Again, the neighbor said it wasn't any of the city's business what he did to his yard, while also reminding my husband to mind his own business. Well, while they're filling up the backyard to bring their levels to ours, the landscapers are dumping all the dirt, gravel, and sand into the street, and they were blocking a little over half of the road. Several of the neighbors who had trucks would just hop the curb, but other neighbors with smaller cars were mad. Before my neighbor could ask if they could put the dirt and stuff in their driveway instead of the road like everybody else, my neighbor went off on my husband and told him to get lost in not so nice of words. So we thought, okay then. My husband let them continue working and didn't say a word as they started constructing a 10-foot tall fence, which was against HOA regulations, as fences could not be taller than 6 feet. Between them starting construction 6 days before 7 a.m. and them blocking the road, I guess someone had finally had enough. The next thing I know, city officials were out there putting a giant sign in the yard saying all construction was to be halted until further notice. Now, let me tell you something. It was not us who did this, but my husband found out through the architectural committee that someone had complained about the noise and the road blockage to the HOA, who came out to investigate, saw everything that they had done, and then reported them to the city. They got a hefty fine for every tree stump the city official found. The structural engineer said the retaining wall was not sound and it had to be redone, and it had to have regular inspection during its build. The HOA also told them that not only did they have to take down the 10-foot tall fence, but as they did not get prior approval, and because it was not an appropriate design, the HOA was also going to hit them with a hefty fine. Initially, the neighbor came to us for tattling, but we told them it wasn't us, as nothing they did affected us in any kind of way. For reference, our kids are early risers, so even starting before 7 o'clock didn't bother us. My husband then said that he tried to warn them that this would happen, but the neighbor told him to get lost and mind his business, so he did. Landscaping had started on Black Friday and was shut down for 3 weeks, while I guess they got things sorted out with the city and the HOA. And as of now, their backyard is still not finished. Wow, this is really funny to me, because if the neighbors had just listened to the husband of this story, then they literally could have avoided all of this trouble. But instead, they decided to be hostile and really weird to this guy, and that's just really not fair. Like, this guy really was genuinely trying to help out. He was trying to step up to the plate and say, hey, just so you know, I know a lot about all of this and you might be doing it wrong. And I know if I was doing construction on my backyard and my neighbor's like, hey, wait a second, the city might have a problem with this, I would stop what I was doing like immediately and be like, oh, okay, let me go figure that out real quick. And I can imagine their fines are probably very hefty from the HOA and the city. Like, both of those organizations probably do not play around, especially the HOA. So good for you and your husband for maliciously complying and basically stepping back and letting these people ruin their lives, because they absolutely deserve it after the way they talked to you and your husband. An entitled Karen calls the police on me because she doesn't like the fact that I go out at what she considers weird times. She even goes as far as claiming that I'm selling illegal substances around the neighborhood and that I must be stopped at all costs. But once she was proven wrong and shown that she was completely lying, she slapped me in the face in retaliation, resulting in her getting arrested for slapping a kid. Here's what happened. So I'm a 16-year-old from Serbia, and I live in the building next to my grandmother's. Our buildings are divided into several buildings. Strange, but each entrance functions like its own building, as if we only share walls, and you can't exit one entrance to get to another without leaving the building. Now, I live in the entrance facing another building. If I go around it, the other entrance leads to my grandmother's apartment. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away 8 years ago, leaving my grandmother alone in her apartment. My parents, back then when this happened several years ago, saw one empty room and asked my grandmother if we could turn it into my private room because I needed privacy. Now, my grandmother was thrilled with the idea. After discussing it with me, we made the room. Since I followed my grandmother's rules and helped her, I didn't spend all my time at her place. Instead, I switched between apartments as needed. For example, I'd come home from school, leave my things, and then go to my grandmother's house to sleep. Then I would return home in the morning to have breakfast. I had a sort of routine for when I went where, with an accuracy of plus or minus an hour. Now, just to reiterate, I live in the entrance facing another building. If I go around it, the other entrance leads to my grandmother's apartment. Directly in front of my entrance is another entrance, and above it on the window, at least 70% of the time when I went out, there was an elderly woman. She always looked at me somewhat grumpily as I passed by, and sometimes I would glance at her, but I had had headphones on and often wore a hoodie, so I just ignored her. When I had the second shift, I usually got home at about 8:20, and then I went to my grandmother's house at around 10:30, even though sometimes there would be exceptions. Now, that woman was almost always there, but it never really bothered me. I mean, why would it? I only saw her for maybe 20 seconds a day. Well, once when I was leaving my house to go to my grandmother's without headphones or a hoodie, she finally said something that I honestly will never forget. She looks at me and says, "You're leaving to get high again." I looked at her and I said, "What?" She said to me, "Every day you go out with a hoodie on your head in the dead of night, and I can clearly see what you're doing." I then looked at her and I said, "What do you think I'm doing?" And she responded by saying that I'm dealing some kind of substance. She then demanded to know what I had in my backpack. But I said to her, "Well, not that it's any of your business, but I have a laptop and equipment." But this Karen was not having it. She looked at me and said, "I think it's illegal substances. Open it and let me see it right now." But I refused to do it. I said to her, "Leave me alone," and I just walked away. Now, the next day, she was waiting for me outside the entrance. She said to me, "What's in that bag?" I looked at her and I said, "You are a psychopath." She then said that if I don't tell her, she's gonna call the police. So I responded by saying, "Call whoever you want. I'm out of here." And I left while she was still yelling at me. The next day, 2 police officers were waiting for me outside the door with the Karen. The Karen then said, "That's him. He's the local dealer." I looked at them and I said, "What is going on?" The first police officer said that they received a report that illegal substance trafficking was happening here. I then looked at the second police officer and I said, "Is this for real?" And they confirmed that even though it seemed absurd, they had to check it out. I then just said to him, "Okay, well, can you search me and let me go then?" The first police officer said, "We'll search you, but we won't let you go immediately because the lady said she saw you dealing." I said to them, "That lady is crazy. But you know what? Do what you have to do. I just want to get this over with." The first police officer searched me while the Karen was yelling about me being a dealer. The second officer asked me how old I was and if I had an ID, and I said to him, "I literally went to the building next door. I don't even have a wallet. Can I go to my apartment to get it? I'll even leave my backpack with a laptop as collateral that I'll return." The first officer then said, "Do you live here?" And I said yes, and that's when he said he'll accompany me to my apartment, but he won't enter. Well, when I returned to my apartment, my parents asked what I had forgotten. I said, "Can you please get my wallet with my ID inside? I want to buy some juice," which, by the way, I really did want to do that later. I returned to the police officer and my parents hadn't noticed anything quite yet. We returned outside and I showed my ID, which was valid. The second police officer explained that there's nothing in the backpack and that I had caused them no problems. The Karen then said, "I know he has some substances. I saw him." I then said to her, Where did you see me?" And at this point, the Karen made a mistake, pointing to a place under the cameras. I then said to her, "Okay, when was that?" The Karen then gave the exact date that she thought she saw me doing something sketchy. So I looked at her and I said, "Great, we can check the cameras." Realizing that her plan backfired, the Karen did the only sensible thing. She slapped me in the face. Well, to make a long story short, the first police officer handcuffed her and put her in the car while the Karen was screaming out loud. Now, for a small detail about me, I have a lot of pimples. So if you slap me, I ended up bleeding a little bit, which made it look a lot worse than it actually was, because honestly, it barely felt like a slap. The first police officer went and informed my parents. They came out and my mom wiped away the blood while my dad talked to the police. He asked the officer if he could send me to wash up, and the first police officer sent me away to do exactly that. Karen was convicted of assaulting a minor and misusing the police. Since we managed to hush up the whole story from the neighbors by some miracle, no one actually saw anything. The Karen received a punishment and a stern warning. Now, this Karen didn't go to jail, but she did get a good enough warning that if she did anything worse to me, then she would get a much worse punishment. But even after that incident, she could still be seen at her usual spot next to a window, glaring at me every time I walk by. Yeah, that entitled Karen was clearly just trying to cause problems. She saw some young kid coming in and out at hours that she didn't agree with, so she assumed the worst and accused you of something awful. Like she really tried to convince the police that you were doing something so sketchy. And that part alone is seriously something that would have driven me nuts. She wasted 2 police officers' time, and then when she was cornered because she knew she messed up, she slapped this kid in the face out of some kind of like weird retaliation. I kind of wish she got a bigger punishment, but I guess because she was old, she probably was able to get away with it to some extent. So good for you for standing up for yourself and not taking this garbage for a second, because this entitled Karen was completely out of line for hitting you like that, because you didn't do anything wrong and you definitely definitely did not deserve that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband is dragging his feet to move with me for my new job, and after talking with him about this, as well as trying to find some kind of deadline or even some kind of compromise in some kind of way, I'm now at a point where I seriously don't even think he wants to be in the city we're gonna move to. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I are both 33 years old, and we've been together for more than 6 years. We met in a city on the East Coast of the United States, and we're both in training for our respective niche careers at the time. A few years in, my husband finished his training, but procrastinated at finding the next training position. He ended up with only one offer across the country on the West Coast because all other options were filled by the time he started his search. Now, I was mad because I have been pushing him for about a year to search for a job, which is the normal timeline in his field, and I ended up having to find ways to continue my training on the West Coast to stay with him. Well, it wasn't easy, but I did it by working fully remotely. We agreed then that when I'm done with my training and need to move for jobs that I like, he'll have to pay back by moving with me. It is much harder to find a job in my field, and most people actually ended up giving up on this career, but I got lucky, and I finally found a job this year. Unfortunately, despite trying very hard, it is not on the West Coast, and is not in a big city as my husband would prefer. I still expected that he would move with me as we agreed upon this, even if it means switching to a remote job, which would still be in the same career, but just not as fun as an in-person job would be. From the day I got the precious job offer till now, he hasn't shown any hints of being happy for me, and was in fact visibly and verbally unhappy with the outcome. He kept talking about other opportunities that I was interviewing for, and browsing for jobs or housing around those places, and he was dragging his feet on his job search around my offer. He was more disappointed than me when I eventually got rejected by those better alternatives, and of course not comforting me as a result. Now, I have accepted the offer, and he's still not engaging in my excitement for the new job, and continued to nitpick the area that we're gonna move to. He would say stuff like, "The restaurants are not good enough. I don't like the grocery store and nothing's happening here." And I've gotta be honest, this has been giving me a lot of stress lately. 2 days ago, he came up with the idea of negotiating with his current company to switch to mostly remote work. And this is an idea that I've been bringing up since before my job was finalized, but he kept saying that it was impossible. But now that I've accepted the offer, he finally seriously considered it, I guess. He planned to ask his boss about this in their meeting today, and have been talking about this with me every 2 hours. The strange thing is that he initially proposed 1 week in person and 3 weeks remote, but every time he brought it up, the in-person time increased. In the evening, he weirdly asked me how much my father was away for work when I was young. We are planning to have kids as soon as possible, and he knew my father being absent was the source of problems in my family. I told him it wasn't about the amount of time my father was away, but that he did nothing to make up for it when he was around. Well, as nighttime came around, his proposal progressed to 2 weeks in person and 2 weeks remote work, because that will be more likely accepted by his boss. I told him that 50-50 is a lot of time away from me, and he should treat this as a negotiation and not worry about what the boss wants, but rather what he wants. He somehow couldn't tell me what he wants and said that he has to think, with him grabbing a notebook and starting to write. Now, that is normal of him, so I just didn't push it and I just went to sleep. Well, today at noon, I was napping and I was woken up by him an hour before his meeting with his boss. He told me he is thinking about some options. The first would be 1 week and then 2 weeks, because this would have the smallest impact on other people's schedule. And the second was a 1.5 week and 2.5 week schedule, with his same rationale being about other people. I then interrupted him and asked why he is still talking about other people's needs. Like, what happened to the 1 week, 3 week schedule? He said that's the next option. And I asked him what he wants again, but he just fell silent. Well, at that point, I finally exploded. I said to him if he doesn't want to move, he can stay and we can get a divorce. I continued to repeat my complaints about the stress that he gave me, reminded him about our agreement, and told him that his progressive increase in time away from me in his proposals made me feel like he doesn't want to be with me. He argued that he is not increasing, but I reminded him what happened yesterday. He argued it was just 2 days more, to which I was like, what are you talking about? And I seriously just didn't even know what to say. He also said he didn't realize that's what he was signaling. I asked him why he's only talking about this with me right before the meeting, especially while I'm napping. He said he'll go delay the meeting, and I just suppressed the crazy amount of question marks that are about to explode in my brain. I told him I don't care anymore, and I pushed him to just get the meeting done. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of at a loss right now. It doesn't seem anything I said got through to him at all, and I still don't know what in the world he wants. What should I do? Wow, it really seems like your husband just doesn't care about your career, or he's just not willing to compromise and move with you for your job, which, by the way, is incredibly unfair. I'm sure you've gone through a lot of compromises on your end just to make sure he can get his training done and all this other stuff. And this is especially hurtful because you guys agreed to this in the first place. Like you said, hey, if I get a job offer and we gotta move, you're coming with me, right? And he said, oh yeah, sure, I'll definitely do that. But like, are you gonna do that? Like, is that even gonna happen? Because right now it really seems like he's just completely lying. Like, now that he's faced with the reality of having to move for this job, he suddenly is like, oh man, these restaurants suck and nothing happens there, which has only prompted his question about how much time he can spend away from you. And honestly, that is just so disappointing. The original poster went on to say that if he doesn't move, then she is definitely making sure she's not having kids with him. She's already accepted the job, so she doesn't really have much of a choice in that regard. And honestly, I completely agree with her. Having kids in an environment like this sounds like an absolute train wreck, and I seriously think that would just make things more complicated in this scenario. So hopefully this works out, and hopefully your husband is able to come to his senses and at least pretend like he wants to support you in some kind of way. Because right now he's being very selfish, and this is really not fair for you and your career. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that if she pays for her sister's college, then I will stop favoring her younger sister with my money? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm gonna try and be as clear as possible. My mother had a fund that was supposed to be for both of the grandchildren. She told me multiple times it was for both of the kids. She also informed the girls that they have money, but she unfortunately passed away unexpectedly. My oldest daughter was the only one on the fund, and it is legally hers. But here's the thing, she didn't share it with her sister, and she now has a huge head start in life with it. Due to this money, she has been able to go to college debt-free and is going to buy a house soon. My husband and I have been scrambling to give as much money as possible to our youngest daughter since she really did get screwed over. Even with all of our help, she still needs to take out student loans. My youngest daughter is working while in college, and she found a student job that gives free housing. But the issue is that she needs a car for it. So my husband and I are going to buy her a car because turning down this job will result in a ton of extra debt for her. Well, my oldest daughter found out about us getting the car and she is angry. She's upset with us favoring our younger daughter and that she never got a car from us. But I pointed out that she doesn't need help financially at all. We argued for a while and I had had enough. I told her that if she pays for her sister's college, then I will stop favoring her sister with my money. Well, my older daughter then called me a jerk, and she isn't responding to anything that I send to her. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk for the things that I said? What should I do? I don't think you're favoring your younger daughter at all. It sounds like your older daughter is literally working the system and taking money that's supposed to be for both her and her younger sibling. And sure, the fund only mentioned the older daughter, but it was very obviously expressed verbally from the grandmother while she was still alive that that money was supposed to be for both daughters, that it was not supposed to just go to one of them. And that part in and of itself is honestly so disappointing. Like, the older daughter absolutely knows about this, I would imagine, and she knew that this money would go to her and her sister. And from the sounds of it, it really seems like a lot of money was available to be used. So to that end, I understand where the original poster's coming from, where they're like, wait a second, our other daughter is getting completely screwed out of money. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your older daughter is being very selfish for not splitting the money, even though she knew where this money was supposed to go. Like, in my opinion, it would be different if that money was specifically meant for the older daughter, and like that's the only person that really was supposed to have it. But in this case, it really was supposed to be shared. So for her to run off and be like, oh man, I can't believe you're getting her a car, all the while she's got all this money to work with and has a giant head start in life, that is completely unfair, and I don't blame you for reprimanding her in the way that you did. Am I the jerk for reporting a local homeless woman to the police who stole and destroyed my food? Because right now, my girlfriend and my friends are calling me a jerk, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm from South Asia, and a few years ago, I moved to Australia for my master's degree. I completed it last year and have been working a full-time IT job ever since. Since I don't like grocery shopping, I rely on meal services, which provide provide you weekly meals and groceries on one day of the week. That way you can cook and eat them anytime during the week. Usually I get my box delivered to me anywhere between 3 to 6 in the morning, and I go and get it as soon as I can. This time I got my delivery at around 8 o'clock as there were some delays, and I went to take it at 8:15 before I could leave for work at 9 o'clock. However, when I reached downstairs, my grocery box was nowhere to be found. I asked the reception of my building, and they said they saw someone keeping it but didn't notice anything after that, since the receptionist was an acquaintance. He offered to let me see the security camera footage to see what happened to it. In the footage, we saw a lady who came to use the lobby bathroom from outside, who then took the box when no one was looking and sneaked away with it. The receptionist asked me to contact the police just to lodge a complaint, and so I did. While talking to them, one of the other receptionists came back and asked what had happened, and as the footage was still on the screen, recognized the lady taking the box. She was a frequent visitor here to use the washroom. Now, on my street a little down the road is a homeless woman's shelter, and he told me that he knows she lives there and offered to come with me to see if she was anywhere near there so I could get my box. Well, we get there to find the lady sitting outside the shelter with my box, trying to poke her finger from the side of the tape area to see what's inside. When we confronted her, she said that it was hers, but we said we have contacted the cops and we'll point them to her if she doesn't return it. She seemed like she was under the influence, and angrily she just picked up the box and threw it at us, which caused it to open up and some of my ingredients fell out onto the floor, and she started shouting profanities at us as well as telling us to leave. I picked up what was left of my box and I went back to my building. I then proceeded to complete the report with the police and inform them of the situation, and also explained that we have footage of her stealing it. A few days later, I found out that they reached out to her and had taken her to the station, which had also caused the homeless shelter authorities to ban her from staying there ever again. And I thankfully also got a refund from the food company for my items. Now, when my girlfriend and my friends found out, they all started saying so much garbage and called me a jerk for reporting her. They are all Australian, so I don't know if this is some kind of like cultural thing, but I felt like I was justified in what I did. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Your friends and your girlfriend are completely wrong. You did not do anything wrong, and honestly, the fact that they want you to just let this kind of slide underneath a rug is insane to me and just absolutely inappropriate. Like, let's look at the facts real quick. This homeless woman not only stole your belongings, but she also destroyed it, while also shouting obscenities at you and telling you to get lost. Meanwhile, she's the person who comes into the lobby to use the washroom every single day. Like, this is so backwards, it's not even funny. So I completely think you're justified in calling the cops, because if this can happen to you, it can literally happen to anybody. But don't get me wrong, I have a lot of sympathy for this homeless woman and her situation, but if you steal other people's property, then you absolutely deserve to get the consequences that come your way. That, in my opinion, is not the answer, and the fact that your friends are trying to justify it and be like, oh man, why would you do that? That is insane to me, and that just doesn't make any sense. So no, of course you're not the jerk. You are absolutely justified in calling the cops on someone who stole from you, and anyone who could possibly say otherwise is completely misguided. An entitled Karen calls me stupid, all because her phone bill wasn't paid, thus resulting in her service being canceled. But after dealing with this lady for far too long, I decided that enough was enough, resulting in me kicking her out of my store without helping her any further. And I honestly hope I never have to deal with that entitled Karen ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of background, I work as a manager for a major cell phone carrier. The amount of times we see customers who don't pay their bill and get mad that their service is shut off is crazy. Like, yeah, we're not going to provide you service if you don't pay what you owe. But I also do understand that people run into financial issues, and I will do what I can to help them out. Just don't be a jerk and we can see what can be done. So recently, I had a Karen show up to my store in a huff. When I see customers looking angry or annoyed come in, I take them instead of giving them to one of my reps, because I feel like ultimately I'll get asked to help anyways. So I see her walk in with her kids and I look towards her and I smile. I say to her, "Hi there, how are you guys doing today?" She looks at me and says, "Not so good." I continue by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem?" The Karen then says, "Well, you guys cut off my service and I'm mad because I talked to your customer service yesterday and they said that I should be fine with service until I make my payment next week." Now, when it comes to situations like this, all I can do at the store is have her pay her bill to restart her service. When customer service makes promises like this, which does happen a lot by the way, we can try to contact customer service and have them turn their phones back on. Now, the issue with contacting customer service for a customer who has a past due bill is that the call will just go straight to billing to make them pay. If we enter another customer service number, customer service will just hang up and report the store. So, knowing this, I tell the customer exactly this to give her the right expectation, but I assure her that I'll do what I can to get in touch with customer service. But when I said that, she did not like that. The Karen started screeching by saying, "What do you mean you can't restart my service or contact customer service? It's you guys' fault that my service is shut off." I say to her, "It's not that I can't, it's that it'd be difficult to get someone on the line due to your account status. I'm just trying to set the right expectations." The Karen then rolls her eyes and says, "Just get me my service running again." So I guide her to my store's phone and I call the number that we have to call customer service. On the phone, I chose the option to speak with a representative, and the automated machine asked for the number I'm working with. I dial her number and we get sent straight to billing. We then hear the pre-recorded billing department message, and the Karen then interrupts. She says, "That's the message that I get when I call them." So I say to her, "Yes, like I said before, this will be the only department you'll be able to contact, and this is due to your account status." The Karen then says, "Well, then use your direct customer service line." But I explain to her that this is that number. I then say to her, "If you want, we can call back and try another option, but I think it will lead us right back to here." The Karen agrees, so I hang up and call again. I try this time to reach a different customer service department besides the general department that we call. But again, as soon as the system recognized her number, we hear the billing message again. The Karen then screams out, "This is garbage." But trust me, she didn't say garbage. Instead, she said a pretty bad swear word. I look at her and I say, "Ma'am, please, no swearing in the store." This Karen looks at me and says, "I'll say whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do." So I respond by saying, "Well, you're absolutely right, but I can't have you leave with no resolution to your problem." The Karen then says, "Well, then use someone else's number to get someone to answer." But I explain, just like before, that I won't be doing that. I won't be getting my store in trouble for doing that. The Karen then starts to plead. She says to me, "You have to listen to me. Now use your number to get someone else." I respond to her by saying that I'm not using my number. I've done all that I can do for you. If you want to use someone else's number, then you can call customer service from a different phone. The Karen then says, "Then give me their number." And you know what? I gladly did so. I start walking back to write down the number for her, and as soon as I open the door to the back room, I hear her say, "That guy is an idiot." I then stop in my tracks and I walk right back out to her. I look at her square in the face and I say, "You can leave right now. I understand you're mad about service being shut off, but that doesn't give you the right to insult me or my team. So please, just leave." The Karen then says in a condescending tone, "Well, I'm sorry. Just please give me customer service's number and then I'll leave." But I look at her and I say, "No, you can Google it." The Karen asked me how she's supposed to do that since her service is shut off, but I responded by saying, "Well, that's not my problem, so you can leave now." The Karen, after she notices that I'm not gonna budge, picks up her stuff and grabs her kid and then marches towards the exit. She says as she's almost to the door that I'm a jerk, which one of my reps replied by saying, "Well, at least he pays his bills." And honestly, I just hope I never have to deal with that lady ever again. Yeah, that's a really weird way for somebody to treat you, especially when you are doing everything you can to help them out. It's like, "I'm sorry, lady, I'm not the reason your phone's not working. Maybe if you paid your bill once in a while, this wouldn't be a problem." Like, if you're really gonna not pay your phone bill and then be like, "Wow, why is it not working?" then you really have not thought this through like at all. And I just love the fact that your coworker had your back the entire way. They literally came back with the best insult, and that is so awesome. And hopefully, for the sake of the original poster and that store, that lady never comes back ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled soccer coach gives me the cold shoulder, claiming that he has every right to use our field that we reserved as he was there first before us. So I decided to maliciously comply, making him regret his decision right from the start as he realized we had a professional looking field that had all the bells and whistles he could only dream of having. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at some jerk like that in my life. Here's what happened. Several years ago, I coached a kids soccer team. It was a community recreation league with volunteer coaches with a focus on fun and equal playing time. There were 2 fields next to a school. The third field is a 2-minute walk away and hidden behind a thick stand of trees invisible from the 2 fields. One would never know it was there, but it did have a small parking lot next to it that was accessible only by a rarely used, poorly maintained back lane. Most people would park in the school lot and walk the 2 minutes along the path through the trees. The 2 fields next to the school were typical typical school fields, not particularly well maintained, uneven, and definitely not regulation sized, so a typical school field. The third field was regulation sized, perfectly maintained, had new bleachers, and was maintained like a professional field, with regular waterings, cutting, and seeding. It was the groundskeeper's pride and joy. It was the first day of a new season, and my team of 10-year-olds named the Brown Pandas showed up for our first practice. But the problem is that there was another team on our assigned field, a team of talented players with matching socks and shorts, and they were all wearing cleats and they were in their late teens. I approached the coach and explained that he was on our field and that his field was a 2-minute walk away down the path. Well, he politely told me to take a hike. He was there first, so that was that. So, not looking for a confrontation, I took my team to the really nice field. The parents had bleachers to sit in, and we had a great time on the big boy field. After the practice, the groundskeeper asked me why we were practicing on this field. I told her what happened with the other coach, and she told me she asked the other coach to switch fields also, and he told her to get stuffed, and that was his field. Well, 2 days later at our second practice, his team was on our field again. So the groundskeeper called me over to talk to her and the other coach. She stated, "Just to confirm for the rest of the season, you are switching fields with the Brown Pandas on the far field, and your team is on this field, correct?" "Yeah, this is our field, and the little kids can be on the far field." And the coach looked incredibly arrogant as he said that. I stated that was fine by me, so I grabbed all of our soccer balls and I trudged over to the professional field. 2 glorious weeks passed when during practice the other coach came over with his team and saw the state of our field. He approached me and told me that we needed to switch fields, but I laughed in his face. I told him to go get the groundskeeper so we can discuss it. I then turned my back on him and probably did something like tie a kid's shoe or dry some tears. Remember, these are 10-year-old kids. His team started trying to use our field, and one of my Brown Pandas was scared of the bigger kids and started crying. A couple of parents stepped in and started shooing them away before one of the 10-year-olds got hurt. The coach later returned with his entire team and the groundskeeper, and she was beaming. She asked him if he remembered our conversation of 2 weeks ago, and that's when he started to argue. She told him that we were keeping the same terms of that agreement and to go back to his own field. She said, "Go on, scoot," and I remember her saying that so happily. We had our first game the next week, and all the Brown Panda parents were in attendance watching their children play soccer on a beautiful field with semi-comfortable seating and a working scoreboard. As we left, we walked by the other team playing on a muddy, oversized field. They eventually changed their game dates and times so they could use the big field but had to practice on the old field. And the Brown Pandas never had to set foot on the older field all season. And I've honestly never felt better about putting an arrogant coach in his place. Yeah, that other coach was a jerk right off the pass. Like seriously, all you had to do was be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that. Let's switch places real quick, my bad." Or maybe even something close to that effect. Like instead he wanted to be like, "Nope, we got here first, it's ours, we claim it." But it's like, buddy, what are you doing? Like it is literally not that serious. Let's just calm down here real quick. So truly, good for you for maliciously complying, as well as basically outing this guy as a complete jerk, because his behavior was completely inappropriate and he definitely deserved to be shut down. My awful boss and awful coworker treat me like garbage, but one of the few silver linings of having to work with them is watching them bicker and fight back and forth while I get to watch on the sidelines. And after watching such incident happen today, I honestly felt happy that for once I wasn't stuck in the middle. Here's what happened. So I work at a pretty small, privately owned restaurant. I have this one coworker who we will call Jay, who is a massive edgelord. He really dislikes me, and trust me, the feeling is mutual. We can work civilly, but he occasionally will shoulder check me or say something really snotty. Everyone says he can't keep my name out of his mouth, and I don't know why, because I've only been myself, and I try to be super nice and helpful to everybody. But honestly, whatever. Now, our boss, who we will call Sam, is part owner. He studied somewhere fancy or something like that. He thinks making every single dish, process, and method as complicated as possible will make it sophisticated. He is a massive jerk, and any chance he has to belittle you, he will take it. So on Sundays, we do brunch, and trust me, it's a nightmare. Everyone is angry, nothing goes right, and it's a lot of work. We close at 2 p.m., and the closer will often stay until 5 o'clock p.m. alone, finishing the side work and everything up. However, they let us have as much free food as we would like, and after close, we all take a small break to eat together. So yesterday, it was brunch, and we had a new girl by the name of Lucy. Lucy forgot to ring in a soup for her table, but came back immediately and told them that she needed one on the fly. And this was our hostess by the name of Vicky, who's also Sam's stepdaughter. stepdaughter who had just rung in all of the employees' food. Well, Sam gets up in arms about it and says, "Oh, I see how you guys are. You can ring in your own food correctly, but not the guests, right? Thanks, guys." Jay eventually pipes back and says, "It's almost like two different people put those orders in." And when Jay said that, Sam got so mad, he started on a tirade about smart aleck comments and so on. And honestly, despite not really liking Jay and thinking he's a massive jerk, I'm kind of proud of that one singular moment. Yeah, I've had coworkers like Jay as well as Sam in the past, and trust me, both of them are cut from the same cloth. But I also realized, probably like the original poster did, that if you set them against each other, then it can quickly be an entertaining scenario. Because regardless of who wins that engagement, you win in the end because you see the two people you don't like going at it. And honestly, that's a beautiful thing to see, especially when you work in a toxic environment. Am I the jerk for talking about my supposed perfect pregnancy and making my sister feel bad? Because right now she says that I'm being a jerk and that I'm bragging about something that she couldn't have. And right now I feel awful and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister has an 18-month-old baby girl. Her pregnancy was very rough. She was very sick. Her husband and her separated in the middle of her pregnancy, and she didn't have a lot of support from our parents, which isn't their fault. They were low contact before she got pregnant, and that's because of some of the stuff my sister and her husband did. Lately, they've gotten back in touch again and are fixing their relationship. I am 35 weeks pregnant as well, and my pregnancy wasn't entirely hard. My husband and I have a good relationship, and I would say it's even better now. My relationship with my parents and our siblings has always been good too, and besides some minor inconveniences, my pregnancy has been going great so far. My mother is planning to move in with us for 1 or 2 weeks after I give birth, just to try and help me out, which is something she didn't do for my sister. We were discussing this last Saturday because our parents had a family dinner and both of us were invited. Our parents and our sister-in-law, who is my brother's wife, were asking me about my pregnancy as well, and if we were preparing for the baby. I don't feel like we were only talking about me and my baby, like we were all having a normal conversation about work, politics, football, and stuff we regularly talk about. However, when I was telling them about my last checkup, my sister told me that it's not right to brag. So I asked her what she meant by that because I wasn't bragging at all. She told me that talking about how good and perfect my pregnancy has been so far is definitely me bragging. Once again, I told her I'm not bragging, and my mom backed me up on that as well. But as soon as our mom spoke up, my sister blew up. She accused me of being mean, of being a golden child, of wanting to drag attention back to me, of being overbearing, and all this other stuff. She said I'm enjoying that she and her daughter are second-class citizens to our family because she's sure that everyone will spoil my baby as they spoil me, that I'm faking weakness to gain sympathy and have everyone pampering me. I told her to not blame me for her mistakes because if she didn't have a great support system, it's because of her own fault and not mine. She called me a selfish and spoiled brat, and I called her a bitter and envious jerk. She also had a fight with our parents and my husband. Lastly, our dad told her to leave. My husband and I stayed a little bit longer, and I will admit it, we were definitely talking badly about her. Now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if I made a mistake. Our whole family is rethinking if we want to go low contact with her again. So I honestly just don't know, and I'm kind of doubting myself. Now, for some additional context, the problem our family had with her is regarding some inherited jewelry from our grandmother. She pawned them to go on an expensive vacation with her husband. She got some of it back, but lost a necklace that had been in our family for generations. We all love our grandmother and really valued these things since they were very important to her. And she never acknowledged her mistake or apologized, which really is the worst part about all of this. Because if she had at least apologized and said that she was very sure that she'll be able to get the items back, then I think it would have been different. She knows that she hurt us, but never even apologized for hurting our feelings and our grandma's memory. So honestly, I need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister is a complete moron. Like, she's trying to pretend like you're bragging about your pregnancy while also conveniently forgetting how she pawned off a family heirloom. Like, seriously, all of her problems and distance she has with her family is literally her own fault. And this is like the lowest barrier of entry too, by the way. Don't sell off something that's precious to the family, and then there you go, nobody rightfully will hate you. Like, her entitled attitude and the way she's acting is honestly so obnoxious. And for her to basically be like, wow, stop bragging about your pregnancy, that is literally just her projecting her own insecurities on you, and that's not fair in the slightest. Like, you have not done anything to her. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. jerk. I think your sister is incredibly weird and very entitled, and she's obviously very jealous about the way you're going about your pregnancy, because she literally dug her own grave in this sense, and now that she's angry that she's down at a really bad spot is only the result of her making terrible choices. Am I the jerk for defending myself against my sister-in-law, who was visibly upset that we waited to tell her that we're expecting a baby, as well as keeping the name of our baby secret from everybody else? Because right now she is very angry, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My husband and I tried to have a child for 13 years before we accepted that we were never going to have it happen for us. We spent a lot of time hoping and trying different things, and nothing ever worked. I was 35 years old when we decided to come to terms with our life as a child-free couple. We sold our old house, downsizing considerably, and we started changing how we lived our life. We had devoted so much time to preparing to be a family with children that we didn't really know what we wanted now that it was no longer in the cards. Then, just after my 40th birthday, I discovered that I was pregnant. It was a huge shock, and what was even more surprising was that the baby was healthy when I went for my first scan. But I was afraid. I mean, we both were. So we waited until 18 weeks to tell people. I didn't really show until about 21 weeks, so that made it easy to hide. We announced and people were thrilled for us. All our siblings already had children who were 9 years of age and older, so this was the first baby born into the family for a while. We got asked about names and whether or not we would have a baby shower with a name reveal. We decided to keep the name to ourselves until he was born. We wanted something special and a surprise for people. Most people understood, but it came to our attention recently that one of my husband's sisters was not happy about any of this. She didn't like that we kept the pregnancy to ourselves for a while and disliked it even more that we didn't share the name. She brought this up at Christmas for the first time, and she surprised the entire family. She brought it up to my husband on 3 separate occasions after that, and then she brought it up to me 4 days ago. She told me that we left our families out when this was just as big of a deal for them as it was for us. She said everyone had waited for us to have a baby too, and how could we cut them out of something like that? She also claimed that we could have gotten feedback and blessings from our family on his name, which, by the way, for people who might ask, our child's name is going to be Hawthorne. I told her that the news came as such a surprise, and we worried and wanted to come to terms and get to what we felt was a safe point before telling anybody. She argued that we needed our family if something went wrong. Then she said that there was still no excuse for the name, that the name was kind of odd, and she would have liked us to pick something more classic, something like James or George. I told her I understood that everyone had their own taste, but we were getting one chance to name a child, and one chance to experience parenthood, and we wanted to make the most of it. I said we never did it to hurt anybody, but we wanted to do what felt right to us. She told me that was what my husband said and said it was lame, especially to defend myself that way when it was something that the whole family was experiencing. She told me we just wanted to leave everyone out and we should have known better. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk. She sounds like one of those family members who crave to have all the information. Also, they can lord it over other people who don't have the information. She very clearly sounds like a busybody, and I would not pay her any mind. Because think about it, she's the only person complaining about this. She's trying to make it sound like, wow, the family should have known about all of this. But what she's really saying is that she should have known about this. No one else is saying what she is saying. She is literally revealing her hand right from the get-go, all under the guise that family should have been involved. But in her mind, the only family that should have been involved is her. So no, you are not the jerk. I wouldn't even bother telling her any more information about your pregnancy, because if she's gonna act weird, then she can wait on the outside looking in just like everybody else. An entitled mother demands that we give food to her at a discounted price, even though her son just ate half of it while in the store, claiming that he was hungry and that if we don't let them have a discounted price, then we are just monsters who would rather watch her son starve than eat some food. And I've honestly never been more blown away by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So I've been working as a cashier at a local grocery store for quite a while now, and I thought I'd seen everything, but this past Saturday, I encountered an entitled mother that left me both frustrated and baffled. Here's what went down. The store had a flurry of customers. Due to it being the day right before the Super Bowl, I'm manning a 14 items or less register right in front of the hot food section, which is always a hot spot for customers seeking a quick bite. At my store, the hot food is weighed, and that's so that a customer can choose how much food they want, depending on how hungry they are. Now, that probably sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, apparently not for everybody. In comes shows the entitled mother of this story with her son, who's maybe about 7 to 8 years old, happily digging into a container of hot food that's clearly half empty by now. They approach my register and the son is still eating, and I brace myself for the conversation I know I will have to initiate. As I'm scanning their items, I leave the hot food for last, mentioning that I will need to weigh this. The entitled mother then dismissively waves off my comment. She says to me, "Oh, my little angel was just so famished. I had to let him start. Just weigh what's left, darling." Now, at this point, I'm trying to keep my professional cool here. I say to her, "I'm really sorry, but we need to charge for the hot food before it's consumed. Since it's been partially eaten, it's difficult to charge accurately now." Now, you would think that I had just declared war on this entitled mother, because her demeanor shifts as she launches into a rage. She starts screaming at me, "This is absolutely absurd. My baby is hungry, and you're telling me you'd rather have a child starve than break your silly store policy? What kind of monster are you?" Feeling the situation slipping, I suggest to her that I call a service leader to see what we can do about this. As we wait for my service leader, the entitled mother doesn't miss a beat. She turns to her son and says, "Don't worry, sweetie. Mommy's gonna make sure you get to eat. These mean people won't understand how hungry you are, but I do." My service leader arrives, and after I quickly explain the situation, he turns to the entitled mother with a calm yet fierce stance, reiterating the policy and suggesting that in the future, she should consider paying for the food first, just to avoid any kind of issues. Well, the entitled mother was not having it. She said to us, "This is unbelievable. You are all completely unreasonable. I'm trying to take care of my child here, and you're all just being so heartless." Turning back to her son, she begins to say, "It's okay, baby. We won't come back here where the bad people don't let you eat when you're hungry." And with that, she leaves the cart behind. And this is a cart full of cold items that need to be put back quickly, while also leaving the half-eaten hot food behind. She storms out, proclaiming over her shoulder about how we've lost a customer, and that she'll be telling all of her friends about our cruel policies. My service leader thanks me for trying to handle it well, and we both have a pretty good laugh about the situation. The rest of my day was a blur of scanning items and greeting customers, but my mind kept replaying the encounter, astonished at the lengths some parents will go to baby their children, even to the detriment of understanding and respecting simple rules and merchandise. Yeah, that entitled mother was clearly trying to get away with something. Like I've learned in customer service, the more angry and belligerent the customer is, the higher the chance they're trying to pull one over on you. And this entitled mom absolutely takes the cake. She clearly was trying to get a free meal for her kid, or at least get something discounted in the process. And it's like, come on, you definitely knew the policy. You're just trying to skate around the issue and be like, "Oh, just cut me a break specifically." Because trust me, if you give her a break, she will be back with her stupid kid, and she will try that again when you're not there. So honestly, with all things considered, I think you handled this situation really well, because that entitled mother was being an absolute jerk. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled regular customer comes into our restaurant and constantly says terrible things to me and the other female staff members, and I'm honestly so annoyed with his attitude and his demeanor that I seriously can't wait to finally leave this job later this year. Here's what happened. So I'm a bartender who deals with an incredibly unlikable regular who we will call Colin. Colin is not his real name. He's one of these military men who's in his mid-30s and has a young daughter and a pregnant wife. He frequently spends all day drinking at the bar, being disruptive, and trying to trap staff in uncomfortable situations surrounding his opinions and worldview. Colin is well known for towing the line, especially when he speaks to female staff in my restaurant. Colin is not well liked at all. I am one of the few people who openly airs my disdain for Colin to his face, which he seems to mistake for banter. He asked me once rather directly if I disliked him, and I told him he was not someone I would ever willingly choose to interact with outside of this building. Colin seemed to think that this was funny, and since then I've been able to openly insult him to his face, often in front of his friends and other regulars, and he just laughs, and I would call that an acceptable arrangement. I've told Colin off before for his abhorrent behavior, as with the time that he made a comment about the body of one of our hostesses by the name of Anne. Anne is not her real name. Colin is used to getting away with bothering people like this, but this time he was told that Anne is a minor, so he cannot talk to her like that. Colin tried to say that it was just a joke, but I told him to shut up, and he did. I instructed Anne not to come near the bar whenever Colin is around, and that I would not let him get away with bothering her while she was just trying to work. The last time I saw Colin was about a week ago. I was arriving for my closing shift and taking over
over for the opening bartender. Before she gave me the rundown for her remaining tables, she asked me how my day was. I told her I recently finished a new tattoo, and we talked a bit about it as she's new to tattoos, but is becoming an enthusiast. I am known in the restaurant as the one with the tattoos after all. Colin happened to be sitting at the bar and was recently cut off by the opening bartender. He was not a part of the conversation, but seemed to be listening rather intently. He heard about my new tattoo and asked where it was and what it was. I told him it was a large portrait of a mythical figure on my thigh, and it's right about then that Colin responded in a way that I never expected. He said to me, "Okay, well let's see it, take off your pants." When he said this, he laughed really loudly and looked at the others sitting at the bar for encouragement, or perhaps a laugh of some kind, but was only met with other men staring intently at their beers and refusing to make eye contact. I swiftly told Colin, "Nope, try again." Colin backtracked and tried to say that it was just a joke, and instead opted to see if I had a photo. But still, I said, "No, Colin." Although he was cut off, he stuck around for a few minutes, loudly trying to engage with the other regulars at the bar. And trust me, they do not like him either. Colin eventually left to drink somewhere else. Colin is the bane of my existence, and seeing him immediately ruins my shift. I have taken it as my eternal duty to protect my less confrontational coworkers from his behavior and bully him directly whenever I see him. I hate him with a burning passion, and I often fantasize about the day that he will say something stupid enough that I can simply hand him his bill and tell him to go pound sand. To Colin and all other Collins out there, I hope you fall into an open sewer grate and are forced to live among mutated rat people, which is honestly exactly where you belong. Before we go any further, the original poster actually has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so since some people are asking why Colin hasn't been banned yet, I wanted to give just a few reasons. The most important reason is that our GM, who handles issues like this, is also known for his poor behavior and doesn't see an issue with what staff have told him about Colin so far. He also hasn't witnessed any of Colin's less than acceptable behavior, and as such, he refuses to do anything about it. Now, I also want to answer why I'm still working there. Now, even though the GM is a jerk, and regulars like Colin make me want to quit every now and then, I otherwise generally enjoy my job. I enjoy my coworkers, and I enjoy the other guests that come along. Plus, I make some good money. I completed my bachelor's degree in December of 2023, and this job works while I get my next steps figured out. I am planning on being there until September of this year at the absolute latest, and I'm also planning on taking a long and well-deserved break this summer just to take an internship abroad. This is not permanent, but it is what it is, at least for the time being. Wow, that Colin guy is completely out of line. This guy literally was like, "Oh, you got a tattoo on your leg? Take off your pants, I want to see it." Like, I'm sorry, anyone with like a rational thought in their brain would have been like, "Yeah, you've got to go." And the fact that the general manager is not making that step, in my opinion, shows exactly the kind of person that guy is. Like, if I was the manager in that situation, that would be like an automatic ban. There would be no discussion about it. There would be no grace period or anything like that. That guy would be banned from the restaurant for good. So truly, I hope you're able to get out of that job sooner than later, because what you're working in right now sounds absolutely toxic. My boyfriend gets mad whenever I help him with his house, complaining that everything I do is never enough, while also making me feel like garbage just for helping. And right about now, I feel awful. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so we've been together for 4 years. I often stay at his place over the weekend, but we don't live together. I have a small studio apartment, so he never comes to my place. He has a stressful job and he does online schooling, so he is pretty busy. He is also medicated and has been diagnosed with ADHD and struggles with executive functioning. He can't seem to do things like stay organized or clean his house or anything like that. Now, I have a full-time job, but I'm pretty organized and I'm very willing to help him. Well, the issue is that when I help him, it backfires. It's like no good deed goes unpunished. To give an example, I had a conference last weekend, so I hadn't been over to his house in over a week. So when I got there, it was pretty unorganized. He said he didn't even have any clean clothing. So I did all the laundry, including all the towels and sheets and blankets, and trust me, it took quite a while. I also organized the kitchen as well as a few other things. And I don't feel used because he often pays for things, such as when we go out to eat, which does happen very often. Plus, I genuinely want to help him out. Well, this morning he texted me and he was very angry. He was upset because his shirt still had some dog hair on it, but I said that his clothes are covered in dog hair when I do the laundry, and I do my best to get rid of most of it, but some inevitably gets left on the shirt. Honestly, his whole house is always covered in dog hair, and when I'm there, I have to take allergy medications. I even bought him an air purifier and a Roomba, but there is still so much dog hair. But he sleeps with both dogs, so all the bedding is also covered in fur. Now, I told him to just use a lint roller, but he said no, that I should just get rid of the shirts if the dog hair doesn't come off. He then started complaining that I had only put some of the bottles of water in the fridge instead of putting all of them in there. I told him I just put the bottles from the pack that was opened in the fridge and didn't open all of the packs. Honestly though, I was busy and I just didn't get to it. He then tells me that I'm making excuses and to not bother helping if I don't do it properly because it just makes more work for him and upsets him. I know he was just in a bad mood because he was running late, but this is not a one-off situation. This scenario has happened several times over a variety of issues. It seems whenever I try to help him, if things aren't perfect, he just ends up mad. I have actually stopped helping him as much as I used to, specifically because of this problem. But then he just gets upset over that too. We have loose plans to live together when my lease comes up, but it's exactly this that gives me pause. He's really uptight about minor things, and I tend to get blamed for things I don't see as overly important. He says as his partner, I should be able to help him properly, I guess, even though I honestly try. And in return, he will pay for rent, food, and other things that we need. It's not that I don't want to help him, but it's just that everything is always wrong. So honestly, how can I address this with him? Today, I told him that him blaming me for things isn't very attractive, and that didn't go over well. I just need some suggestions on how we can work through this so that we can both be happy, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest here, but if this isn't a giant red flag that maybe you should not move in with this guy, then I don't know what will be. Because what you've described seriously sounds so obnoxious. Nothing you ever do is ever good enough for this guy. Here you are cleaning his apartment and folding his clothes and doing his laundry, and he still has the audacity to act like you're doing it wrong. But it's like, dude, you're missing the fact that she's doing it in the first place. Like, this guy sounds not only incredibly obnoxious, but also incredibly ungrateful. It's almost like he just doesn't care that you've worked really hard to try and get his house in order. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would really be reconsidering living with this guy, because what you're experiencing now would be happening all the time. Like, this would be every single day of your life instead of like over the weekend when you stay at his place. And I'm just gonna say it, there's no reason why he couldn't use a lint roller to get the dog hair off of his shirt. Like, that literally is so easy to do, there's just no good excuse for that. Like, at that point, he's just being obnoxious, trying to blame you for things that he clearly isn't taking care of. So no, in my opinion, you didn't do anything wrong, and honestly, your boyfriend sounds like a piece of work. Today, I messed up by doing a butterfly release at my wedding as a tribute to my dad who passed away 13 years ago. But unfortunately, it went incredibly wrong, and now I feel horribly embarrassed and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this didn't exactly happen today, but we're going on 2 years now and I can't get it out of my head. I'll preface this by saying that I had a beautiful wedding. The cake of my dreams, the 2 dresses of my dreams, a live painter, a live band, 175 of our closest friends and family. It was everything I wanted. The only thing missing was my dad. My dad passed away 13 years ago, and I knew I wanted to find a way to honor him. There was a time when I was younger where he played the song Butterfly Kisses for me, and he had us dance to it in the kitchen because he told me he knew he was sick and he wouldn't make it to my wedding day to dance with me. So when it came time to actually plan my wedding, I knew, of course, I wanted to honor my dad in some way, and the thought of that moment replayed in my mind. A butterfly release seemed like the most beautiful and sentimental way to honor him and have a really cool, unique experience at our wedding. Well, the wedding day was supposed to be in the 70s, and the temperature ended up dropping so much that morning. It rained when that wasn't in the forecast, and overall was just a seriously gloomy day. I didn't think anything of the butterflies, and I just went along with it. Sadly, because of the temperature drop, most of the butterflies didn't fly away. They were too cold and ended up just falling to the ground. We did have a few that flew away, but most of them did not. It broke my heart and it made me so embarrassed. Not only was I embarrassed that this happened in front of all my friends and family, but I also felt terrible from a moral standpoint as well. I got so wrapped up in the aesthetics of the wedding that I didn't stop to think that maybe this wasn't a good idea. I feel like everyone was laughing at me and making fun of the situation. And still, almost 2 years later, I feel like I don't know how to move past it. All of the good stuff from my wedding I feel like is overshadowed by this one stupid thing, and it really just sucks. I ended up spending an hour of the reception in the bridal suite having panic attacks, especially since I'm already someone that has crippling anxiety. My husband and I have thought about doing a vow renewal, but we aren't sure how that will go over. We were considering at the 5-year mark inviting about half the people from the original day, but making it literally just a big party party where we can just enjoy ourselves since we didn't even have a dance at our wedding, except for like 10 minutes when my husband finally convinced me to try and have a few minutes of fun. Anyways, I know it was wrong to do, so I don't need judgment towards that. I just needed to get it off my chest and hopefully try to find ways to move past it and get over it. Because honestly, even to this day, I still regret it. So I totally understand where the original poster's coming from, where they feel like they ruined that moment for themselves and they just like embarrassed themselves in front of all their friends and family. But honestly, I think people understood where you were coming from. Even though the butterflies didn't fly away in the way you were imagining, I really would be hard pressed to think that anybody's like making fun of you for trying to do that. Like honestly, even me just reading that, that's like the first time I've ever heard of anybody even trying that. So that really is like a unique idea. Like I really like that idea overall. But honestly, if they really were your friends and family, the last thing they're gonna do is laugh at you trying to have some kind of tribute to your passed away father. If they did laugh, then trust me, they are not friends and they are not family. So truly, I would not be too hard on yourself. I think the thought truly is what counts in this scenario, and I think your friends, family, and everybody at that wedding could definitely stand by your side and say that that was a beautiful gesture and that it really was a good tribute to your father. My friend knowingly started dating a guy I was seeing, and now they are actively calling themselves boyfriend and girlfriend, and I'm so devastated that I just feel so broken. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was somewhat seeing a guy for about 5 months. He never made it official, seemingly because I go to school on the opposite side of the state, but we started talking right before I left for school, and we went from casual conversations to sharing our life stories and staying up until 5 a.m. flirting with one another. I didn't tell too many of my friends because with my luck, things stop working out when I tell my friends about a guy that I'm interested in. So I just told 3 of my closest friends, one of which was very supportive and thought it would be the cutest couple. We went on one date when I came home to visit family for a weekend and it went really well. Suddenly though, he pulled away and was acting different. One day I went on Instagram and I saw my friend post a picture with him, claiming him as her boyfriend. Well, my heart shattered into a million pieces, and I didn't want to start drama with her because we work together. For reference, we both work at a fast food restaurant. When we worked together over holiday break, she told me she felt bad about dating him, knowing that I liked him and that it happened too fast. And she didn't want me to think that she was a bad friend or not a girl's girl. I told her it was okay because I didn't want to start drama, but it hurt me so much. Now I've distanced myself from her and him as well. She always posts pictures of them together on social media, and it feels like she's rubbing it in my face. I have always been there for her, so it hurts me that she would betray me like this. She is much more attractive than I am, so she could have any guy she wants. But of course, she picks the one guy that I'm interested in, and the one guy that was actually interested in me for at least a little bit. With tomorrow being Valentine's Day, I'm not looking forward to seeing their lovey-dovey post on social media. I'm upset with him as well. Even though we weren't official, we still had feelings towards each other. We were close and he betrayed me by dating someone who he knew I was close with. I just don't get why people act like this, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your friend is a piece of garbage. She literally went after the guy that you were interested in only after you went on a date with him and told her that you liked him. Like, that is so toxic, it's not even funny. And you know for a fact that's exactly what happened. Like, your supposed friend didn't even know he existed until you said, hey, I've got this guy that I'm really interested in. And then you showed pictures of him and told her more about him, and it's right about then that she started scheming against you. And that honestly is just not fair for you in the slightest. Like, in my opinion, if you have a friend who's interested in someone that you're currently kind of seeing, the least you can do is maybe check in to see if you guys are still dating or anything like that. But from the sounds of it, it really seems like she was already checking him out and getting with him while you two are still trying to figure things out. And that's why I think he suddenly pulled away and acted way different. It quite literally was your friend orchestrating all of this behind the scenes. So truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry this happened to you. It really is awful that your friend betrayed you in this way, and hopefully you're able to move on and find somebody else. My entitled parents guilt-trip me into buying a house with them because they feel it's my obligation to pay them back and contribute to their retirement. But my experience with them has been nothing but toxic, as they constantly put me down and use me for my money and my time. And right about now, I feel incredibly trapped and very stuck. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was younger, my family and I grew up on low income. My dad was the only income earner, and he worked a blue-collar job, while my mom was a stay-at-home mom. In 2022, I got guilt-tripped into buying a house with my parents that they simply couldn't afford on their own. I was pressured to sign as a co-borrower since my parents could not get approved for the loan with my dad's low income. I was paying the entire mortgage since the mortgage is more than my dad's entire monthly salary. They keep saying they sacrificed so much for me by raising me, and now it's my obligation to pay them back by buying them a house, paying their mortgage, and contributing to their retirement. I've been feeling resentful of all of my friends who can live at home rent-free and have parents who don't treat them like an ATM or retirement plan in the future. I can't afford to move out and pay rent in addition to the mortgage, and I've been feeling hopeless and very stuck. I can't afford to max out my 401k each year, and I'm putting less into savings because of this burden they put on me. I have goals of moving out and buying a house in the future, and I feel like I could never achieve that now. I feel resentful of my parents for putting me in this situation as a result of their poor financial decisions in the past. We previously had a house with a mortgage that they could afford, but they wanted to move to this house because of nicer weather and the backyard. But it's all at a huge financial cost. It's a house that I didn't even want, but my parents kept saying this house is their dream house and the old house makes them feel down, and I would be responsible for their mood and poor health. They keep reminding me of how much time, energy, and resources they used to raise me, and now it's my duty to pay them back for all that they have done. Living at home is honestly horrible and contributes to my sense of hopelessness and worthlessness. My parents are always arguing and at each other's throat 24/7. Every day I get criticized and called fat, ugly, lazy, that I walk ugly and I eat too loudly. I feel trapped and stuck, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, that is an awful place to live in. Your parents are very clearly taking advantage of you, but I don't think you need to tell me that. It kind of seems like you know what's going on. And sure, you got guilt-tripped into buying this house with them and being a co-borrower and like getting all this stuff for them, but here's the thing, you can right that wrong by moving out if you really want to. Now, I don't know the legality of all of this, so maybe talk with like a real estate lawyer of some kind, but seriously, if I was in your shoes, I would start the process of moving out and moving on with my life. They are literally guilt-tripping you into staying in that house just so you can pay for literally everything, because you've got it right. They're using you as an ATM and a retirement plan. They suck at managing their money, so they're forcing you to do it at the age of 27. And trust me when I say this, you do not deserve that. This is all literally at your detriment, and I guarantee you if you move out, you will feel so much better. I know I would, especially if I was getting treated like garbage in the way you're getting treated. And you know what? If they really want to be like, wow, if you don't help us with this, our mood is going to be awful and our retirement is going to be ruined. Well then congratulations, you ruined your own retirement. Like all that stuff about them shifting blame onto your shoulders, it is all ridiculous and I would not put up with that for a second. So honestly, I wish you the best in this endeavor because the way your family is treating you is so selfish and uncalled for. You do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. And I hope for your own happiness this all gets worked out sooner than later. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My grandmother feels entitled to my inheritance money that I got from my passed away mother. And after receiving several of her awful comments, I'm now left at a crossroad and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom passed away about a year and 4 months ago, and I was listed as the sole beneficiary for her 401k and life insurance. So I received everything. Plus, before she passed away, she had terminal cancer, so she directly told me that she wanted me to have everything, and even talked to me about taking money out of her 401k early before passing away to ensure that I would receive it. After my mom's death, my grandma has acted entitled to my money on several different occasions and has expressed, along with my mom's partner, that they think the money should have been distributed amongst the family equally. I am my mother's only child, and my father passed years before her, so even if she didn't explicitly express her wish for me to receive the inheritance verbally, I would think that I'm meant to receive all of the inheritance, especially by the natural order of things. My grandmother texted me yesterday on Valentine's Day, all without wishing me a happy Valentine's Day or even a simple hello first. She just told me that I forgot to cash a $700 healthcare refund check that my mom received after her death, and said that she sure could have used the money for her federal taxes if she knew I was going to lose the money. Dealing with probate after my mom's death was very stressful alongside the grief, and it was never my intention to forget to cash a check, obviously. And I guess I understand her mentality that the money is useful and should be utilized, but it really bugs me the way that she came at me, and the fact that she feels entitled enough to say that she could have used it for her taxes when the money isn't hers whatsoever. That call isn't even hers to make. I am the PR on my mom's estate. And why would the money be used to pay for her federal taxes? I honestly don't really know how to respond to her, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, your grandma can feel however she wants to feel. Right now, she's just trying to guilt trip you into giving her money. That's all this is about. Your mom clearly knew what she was doing in giving you the money, because clearly this is how your grandmother's gonna act when she doesn't have money. And that's really unfortunate because this is the last thing you need on your plate. Things are already hard enough as it is, and the last thing you need is to be pressured by your grandmother, all because she's missing out on free money as she sees it. So if I was in your shoes, I would just ignore that message and not even look back, because your grandmother is being very toxic right now, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting my fiance's ex in his wedding party? Because right now he is planning to include her despite my protest, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female, and my fiance is 33 years old. We have been dating for about 4 years now and engaged last year. Prior to us dating, my fiance dated his childhood best friend for 8 years. We'll call her Elizabeth, that's not her real name. They were briefly engaged before calling it off, and from what I was told, they decided to break it off because they were getting married for the wrong reasons. They were planning to get married because it was the next step, and that since their families were best friends, he needed to marry her. After they broke off the engagement, they remained friends. Since the beginning of our relationship, I knew that Elizabeth was in my fiance's family's lives. Elizabeth and my fiance's moms are best friends. She is also best friends with his younger sister, and my fiance and her are friends with the same social circle. I don't have a problem with Elizabeth and her friendship with my fiance. I actually like her as a person, and I would also consider her a friend. However, there are times when we hang out that I really do feel left out. I feel almost like a third wheel, and this is because of their inside jokes and shared childhood stories. I have always tried to be open-minded about their friendships since he assured me that they are only friends, and I do trust the both of them. My fiance and I are now finalizing our wedding party. Since both of us have best friends who are the opposite sex, we agreed that it's okay to have the opposite sex in our own wedding party. Well, I told him who I wanted to ask to be in my wedding party, and he mentioned to me that it would mean a lot to him to have his sister be a part of my wedding party. Now, I get along with his sister well enough, so I agreed to include her. When he listed his wedding party, he mentioned Elizabeth, and when he did that, I was taken aback. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with having her be in the wedding party. I told him that I am more than happy to have her attend the ceremony and the reception, and that she can sit with his family and be in the family pictures. However, that wasn't good enough for him. He said that it's his wedding party and that it was his decision who's going to be in it, that I have the right to choose my own wedding party, so he should be able to choose whoever he likes. I told him that's not fair because I'm not having my high school sweetheart in my wedding party. This is becoming a huge fight between us, and he said he is putting his foot down and Elizabeth is going to be in his wedding party. I told him that I will not budge on this. Out of anger, I told him to choose. It's going to be me or her. If she's in the wedding party, then I won't be standing in the altar. He responded by telling me that I was acting crazy and that he's going to stay with his brother until I calm down and be reasonable. Well, it's been 3 days now, and he texted me twice since the fight. First, to ask me if I've calmed down and if I was ready to be reasonable, and the second to ask me if I agreed with his wedding party list. I told him my answer is still no, and that I don't know if I can let this one go. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Honestly, I completely understand where you're coming from. I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario, and I think your fiance is being very unreasonable for having his ex in his wedding party. And this is not just his ex, this is his ex-fiance. Like, they were gonna get married. I don't know about you, but if I was in the original poster shoes, I would feel really awkward about having them in the wedding party. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but it really just would not make me very comfortable at all. Now, I don't think the ultimatum was a good idea. I think that only increased the tension between the two of you, and I definitely would have chosen against that if I was in your shoes, but I think your boundaries are all still the same. And also, why is he fighting so hard to have her in his party? This is your wedding as well, after all, isn't it? If my fiance was like, no, I don't want them in your wedding party, I would be like, oh, okay, I just won't invite them. It really would be that simple. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I really do think that it's ludicrous that he's digging in the way that he is, and it clearly shows that his priorities are completely mixed up. My entitled friend intentionally tried to make me feel sad, all because I was alone on Valentine's Day. And I'm honestly not sure what to make of the situation, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so both my friend and I are in relationships. I'm engaged to the love of my life, but with that, we have to be apart for a bit. My fiance and I are doing the K1 fiance UK visa. So we have to be apart for a year max, but luckily the government is making it go by fast, so it most likely will be under a year. And trust me, the long distance is hard on the both of us. But you know what? We're making it work. Luckily, I have a lot of work vacations, and I'm seeing him on Sunday for a whole week in London, and then in August, I'm spending a month in his home country of South Korea. Now, my friend is in a toxic on and off again relationship. They are honestly a match made in Hades. She has told me her boyfriend was cheating on her with a lesbian, and she made these claims for a while. Now, regarding cheating, she has said that he was going to cheat on her during her birthday. But even with all the cheating, they always seem to get back together. She goes from telling me how horrible he is to being the happiest girl alive. Well, since today is Valentine's Day, I encourage myself to not give it too much thought, so I won't make myself sad that my fiance isn't here today. We FaceTime, made a lovely Instagram post, and told each other how much we love each other. I planned just to have the night to myself, maybe watch a horror movie and just have some popcorn. But that's when my friend called me, and I knew right away that she would be bragging about her plans. When I answered the phone, she said to me, "Hey girl, I'm just checking in on you since you don't have Valentine's Day with your man." And I said to her, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I honestly don't care since I'm seeing him in a few days." Now, luckily the conversation changed, but she kept going into detail about Valentine's Day. But I just told myself to let her have this and to let her go off. But I started to feel like she was playing it up just to try and hurt my feelings, like it really did feel extra. She told me that her boyfriend bought her a $300 ring, that they were going for dinner and all this other stuff. Now, it was fine initially, but she kept repeating herself. Then she said to me that she feels sorry for me that I'm alone on Valentine's Day. And that really hurt to hear, but I just said I don't really care. I guess I tried to push the narrative that I don't care, but then her brother walked past and she asked him what his Valentine's Day plans were. He said his plans are doing nothing, and she went off on him saying that she feels bad that he's doing nothing for Valentine's Day, and she couldn't imagine being alone for Valentine's Day. Her brother just kept repeating himself by telling her the holiday isn't for him and he doesn't care about it at all. Funny enough, a few days ago, my friend was telling me that she fears her boyfriend won't do anything for Valentine's Day, since according to her, he's not telling her what type of gift he wants, and then proceeded to get upset because she didn't want to buy him an Xbox. He also told her that Valentine's Day is a white person holiday and blamed white people for taking his money. I told my fiance about this, and he said he thinks she's doing it intentionally to hurt my feelings and to make me feel upset or jealous. My fiance has pointed out that she has done stuff like this before, and he's not surprised that she would do it again. I tried so hard not to let it affect me, but in a way it really does. So I don't really know if I'm being sensitive or if this is actually intentional, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were doing it intentional. They were obviously trying to make you feel jealous, all because you didn't have your fiance on Valentine's Day. Like, that's the only reason she called you up. She was just trying to make you jealous. And I guarantee you, she's the type of friend where if you did that to her, that would be devastating to her and she would not know what to do. It's one of those like glass cannon fragile types who can really put salt in the wound and like add to the fire, if you will. But the second you turn that on them, they just absolutely crumble. So if I was in your shoes, I would just brush that off and pay her no mind. She clearly has a thing for making people feel like garbage, and if anything, it just proves the kind of person she really is, and hopefully would inform your decision of hanging out with her in the future. Am I the jerk for announcing my adoption publicly on social media, even though I didn't tell my biological mother yet? Because right now, a lot of people are very upset, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 19-year-old male, and I was recently adopted. And yes, this is an adult adoption, and I had many reasons to want this, but it first requires some background. My biological father was married before he met my biological mother. He had 3 daughters with his first wife, and when the younger 2 were still babies, his first wife became ill, and for 5 years, the oldest of the 3 was taking care of her sick mother and raising her younger sisters while she was still only a child herself. The biological father went off the rails when his first wife got sick and started drinking heavily and abandoned his family when they needed him the most. 3 months after his first wife died, the 3 girls were taken from him. Then they separated the oldest from her youngest sisters because she was refusing to let someone else parent them, and they worried it would chase away families for the younger 2. They found a family long term, but the oldest was bounced around. My biological family met, and then he decided to take custody of his oldest back. My biological mother knew the background and was aware that my biological father was a drunk. She was aware that he lost his kids and abandoned them long before they were taken, and this is since he was given rights to visit them occasionally. He got his oldest back, but of course she was angry and bitter at her father, as well as at my biological mother. Both of my biological parents knew how she felt, and guess what they did? Well, that's right, they had me. She hated me. And I remember my biological father asking her why she didn't show me the same love and affection that she did the other girls. His daughter would ask me, why would I love it? Why should I show it affection? She and my biological father fought a lot. She ran away a lot. She got into trouble way before I could even remember, but I still heard about it later in life. And this is because she tried to take her sisters away from their foster family. My parents were the only people there for me and who saw how messed up it was to have me when they had that mess going on. My biological family only got married a few years after I was born, and there's a photo where they drag my biological father's oldest to the wedding, and that photo says exactly how she felt about it. My biological father drank a lot by the time his daughter left the house for good, and he started drinking and blamed it on the fights between him and his daughter. My biological mother would act like I didn't remember anything, and yet would tell me I had 3 sisters all the time. She always denied that it had an impact on me. But I had my parents, and at the age of 15, I moved in with them unofficially, and then they agreed to adopt me as an adult if I went to therapy for a year, just to be sure that it was really what I wanted and that I wasn't using it for an unhealthy reason. It was official a couple of weeks ago, and I announced it on social media. Well, my biological mother was so upset. My extended family on that side were really mad that my mom betrayed her sister like that, and they were mad at me for making the big social media reveal. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You were just announcing something that was really important to you, and you had every right to do that online if you wanted to. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think their reaction and the fact that they feel betrayed is completely unreasonable. Am I the jerk for paying my mother-in-law as well as buying her a ticket home after she was no help for helping my wife and I with our brand new kid? Because at this point, I'm being called a jerk, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I just welcomed our first and likely only child at Christmas time. My mother-in-law came to stay with us and tried to help. But here's the thing, she was not helpful at all. She constantly disagreed with how we were doing things. She did nothing around the house except help the baby. So my wife ended up doing a bunch of housework instead of relaxing. I would get home to an exhausted wife and her mom who fought me for time with my kid. I would make dinner for the 3 of us and do what I could to get stuff done around the house before passing out and starting over the next day. I tried talking to my wife about it, but she won't stand up to her mom. I tried talking to her mom, and she said she's not here to be our maid, and she's only here to help out the baby. So you know what? I got sick of it, and I booked her a ticket home. 3 days before the flight, I thanked her for all her help, and I told her that we would take care of it from here. Well, needless to say, she was angry. She says that I'm ungrateful for everything that she is doing for us, and that she took time off of work to help out. She started crying about it on social media, and some of her friends and family were joining in saying that I was unappreciative. She drives old people around to make appointments, and she makes about $2,000 a month. I mean, it's not even a full-time job. So I gave her $3,000 and said that we appreciate that she lost wages by helping, so that should cover any expenses that she made. I commented on all of her posts that she had been paid for her time, and I thanked everyone who reminded me that she had lost money to help us. Well, she is back home now and whining that she cannot see her grandbaby every day. My wife thanked me for handling it, but some people are now saying I was heartless for making it all about money. So I'm honestly convinced that I can't win, but I don't think I'm the jerk like my mother-in-law is saying. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Your mother-in-law was being obnoxious in your house. She wasn't doing exactly what she was supposed to do, and instead used that as time to only look at the baby. It's like, I'm sorry, yeah, the baby's there, but we need help with like all this other stuff. You've got to be kidding, right? Like you're working all day just for her to sit around with a baby. Meanwhile, your wife is exhausted after, I don't know, giving birth, and your mother-in-law isn't doing anything to help. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. She very clearly had her priorities mixed up, and she wasn't going to help out in the way that she should have been helping. And I also think it's good that you gave her $3,000 so you could literally shut everybody up when it comes to the money issue. And I think you're right. Regardless of what you do, I don't think you're going to win. But at least you can shut down that garbage about you not paying her. Thank you so much for watching. We love you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed already, first off, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. But please, we can fix that by subscribing and hitting the bell. That little bell is like a dinner bell for us because we're gonna hear that and be like, okay, you want more. So dude, hit the bell. We're making videos every single day. You won't regret it. So thank you again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.